Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey, Eddie, I can hear you and see you. Nice flags.
Great. Thanks.
I
knew
hear
you'd
you
love 'em.
also.
All right. Everybody got the second email to the link for the info download folder, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And everybody got the documents so they'll know what we're covering and why?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
I could use a little bit more background if you would like to fill me in.
Well, the fill you in part is this class is to help somebody prepare for a court appearance they've got next week. And what we're going over is the complaint against her, the citation itself, and the motion that I wrote several years ago for dealing with speeding citations in the state of Texas. And all those are in that documents folder. And so far, the person we're supposed to be here to help hasn't logged in, so we're waiting to see.
She did send me the paperwork, so I'm assuming she's probably just wrapping things up.
Okay. Now, for the purposes of this class, this is a participatory class, okay? We're going to be working through this like a mock trial. So I'm going to be playing the part of the judge for the most part and the prosecutor, simply because nobody else in here knows enough to do that. I don't think. We got any actual lawyers in the house?
No, but I did invite Brett
Brett who?
Fountain.
Okay. So we'll wait and see if Jane actually shows up. She chickens out on me now. I'm going to be very unpleasant with her later.
I just sent her another text also.
Well, I usually give everybody until 10 after to get in, and then we start.
Sounds good. Thank you. While we're waiting, is it possible for you to tell us a little bit about your class?
The class is to teach legal self-help. Basically, I go over the rules of procedure, evidence, and all that other stuff with you to teach you what they mean, how to use them, when to use them, et cetera, et cetera. I teach you how to write legal pleadings, how to make legal arguments, how to understand what's being said, and how to say something that is meaningful to a court. Basically, I try to teach you to act like your own lawyer.
And how long are your classes and what days?
They're Thursday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. They usually run over because of questions and things like that, but they're scheduled for 2 hours every Thursday. The only time we don't have classes is if something comes up that prevents me from actually holding the class, such as power outages, internet loss, or something died, including me. Or we're in the same week as a major holiday. If we're in the same week or weekend as a major holiday, we do not have class that week. because a lot of people try to take 4-day weekends, et cetera, on those times a year. So we just skipped the class.
Okay, thank you. Jane, you're still muted.
I thought a lot more people were gonna come. I posted it on Telegram. But I guess people have lives, you know. They're not absorbed in all this.
Well, and I didn't have enough time to get it out there to Brett. I just sent it to him, so I don't think he had enough time to even know.
I sent it to him last night. He knew about it last night.
Okay.
So, and plus everybody else that was on Telegram last night knew about it. And today.
Do
But
you have a plan for tonight, Jane?
oh, I sent it to you, but
You didn't send me a plan. You sent me a couple of arguments. That's not a plan.
no, I sent you a list, the last email I sent after you replied to the 3 emails I sent to you prior. I sent you like a defense strategy, that's what it says. But some of my strategy went out the door whenever you reminded me about the location, but I don't know why it is that if they were allowed to say on the citation where our location is, why they don't have to say where their location is.
Can I ask you a question?
Uh-huh.
Why did you file an open records request with the court?
I did that way back when it first happened, but it was because I wanted to get the authority.
Stop. I didn't ask you when you filed it. I asked you why you filed that with the court.
Because I didn't know at that point that I was supposed to file it with DPS, and that's where Randy told me to file it.
Well, you file a copy with the DPS, but you also file a copy with their agency, whatever police department they're part of, and the city secretary of the city that they operate in. That's why the PIRs that I pre-wrote for this are specifically directed to specific parties, and that's who you're supposed to send them to.
And I didn't get those until way after the fact. So I should have sent them again, I guess. Hi, Helen. So also, there's a whole bunch of other motions, but well, really not a bunch. Most of them are just like criminal complaint against the officer, counterclaim. But I know those won't be heard, I'm sure.
Okay. Once again, people, this is not a civil suit. There are no counterclaims in criminal cases, period.
Darn. Well, they worked in one court.
The only time that a counterclaim works at all is when people are pressing criminal charges for assault against each other. Then they cancel each other out. But that's not something you do with the court. That's simply the fact that there's he said, she said.
Right.
That's why I say if you get in a fight with somebody, you always press charges as soon as you can, in the off chance they're going to.
Are you telling me that I, and during the course of my questions that I'm asking the officer about the citation and stuff, that I can't sneak in a question about his location?
You can try whatever you want, but if
Okay.
you don't lay the proper foundation for it, it's not going to matter. The
Okay.
opposition's going to object to it. They're going to get it sustained, and you're dead in the water on the question.
All right.
And the things that you have to use for evidence for the basis for that question have not been introduced and cannot be introduced by anyone but you. So getting the officer to testify to any of it is going to be next to impossible.
To where his location was? Okay.
So unless the prosecutor brings it up, which they're not, okay, if the officer themselves brings it up without being prompted, and then you get to dig into it, you're not going to be able to get there without taking the stand first. And then you've got to recall the cop and try to cross-examine him then. And they're usually not going to let you do that.
Well, I thought you could redirect and,
Redirect is your cross-examination. They redirect unless it's your witness. The state
Man.
redirects their witness, not you.
but I have, I think I can lay the groundwork for asking him the question about his
Well,
location.
we're going to find out, aren't we?
Yeah.
See, this little game in these courts works exactly the same way as it does for online poker. Everybody accuses the game of cheating. Okay? Just
Right.
like they accuse these courts of cheating, when in fact, the person that's getting their ass kicked just doesn't know what the hell they're doing.
But they are cheating. So,
The problem is you don't actually know that, or at least you don't know how to expose it. You just say it without any way to reference why and how they're cheating. What good does it do you?
well, cheating in the sense that they're actually charging us with these offenses anyway, related to traffic.
Kind of not the point.
I
How
know.
do you prove that to a jury?
I know it's going to be difficult to prove to a jury. That's what you're
No,
for.
it's going to be next to impossible, not difficult.
Well, you have all the bases for the argument.
I have the basis for beating the charges, but the other arguments about how they're doing it wrong and what they're doing is illegal is a civil suit. It's not something you're going to get to bring up in a case against you in a traffic offense. They're going to see to that.
Well, my pretrial motions, like the subject matter jurisdiction, it has all those authority type challenges in it for the officer being able to enforce the transportation code. But
Wait, say that again.
it's all the challenges related to jurisdiction and how his authority, he doesn't have the authority because he's not authorized. He told me in person that he was not certified by DPS DOT.
What he told you there
Good
is not
God.
going to make a difference if you can't get it into the record at trial.
Okay, well, it's on the video. I don't have a copy of the video, and I know you're not gonna like that, but I'm gonna get it tomorrow, Monday, when I go file this other motion, or the motion quash.
No, you're going to hope you get it Monday and have it in time for trial.
Well, I've already told them that I was gonna get it, and they said bring it blank CD, and they would give it to me.
Well,
I
you
know.
can do that.
I'm hoping they do. Because if that part is not in there, then they edit it and they tampered with the evidence, because that's exactly what I told them.
Well, how are you going to prove that? Unless it's got a timestamp on it that skips.
You mean when we were actually having a confrontation after he already stopped me? When I was out of my vehicle talking to him?
If the video doesn't have the part you're talking about, how are you going to
Oh.
prove that unless the video actually shows a timestamp with missing time?
Oh, well, don't they have a chain of custody for video?
What does chain of
Evidence-
custody have to do with you proving the video is missing time?
I don't know, but I don't.
Well, therein lies the problem. You
If
don't
they
know.
can tamper with if they can tamper with evidence, then what chance do I have anyway?
The-
Because that's
Unless you
witness,
get the
I mean, that's
recording.
evidence tampering.
Unless you review the information you get from them thoroughly to notice whether or not that's there. You're going to be in court trying to present this and then trying to make an argument you're not ready for because you didn't review it first.
Right. That's why I'm hoping to get it on Monday. When I was there yesterday, they had already left about 3 o'clock. There was no prosecutors there.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this session of the Robin Bly Municipal Court is now in session. Ellen, would you please play my prosecutor?
Where's Tim? He's not coming?
All you have to do, Helen, is look at the criminal complaint and make sure you ask a question covering every element that's in that complaint. You got it?
Am I gonna get to defend myself?
Yes, you are.
Oh,
Or at least you get to try.
okay. Can't hurt to trying.
I can't hear you, Helen. If you don't want to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull it up because I tried to pull it up a while ago. Hold on, let me see if I've got it in here.
Maybe
Is it
Tim
the
didn't come.
citation? Is that the citation?
You're going to want both of them. You're going to have to see both of them. So have them both pulled up where you can read them.
Okay.
So are you gonna let me go through the whole thing before are you gonna like that and interject
I'm
whenever
gonna let you either fly or crash and burn. Take your pick.
Oh, man. I think it would be helpful to have, some whenever I mess up, when you tell me how I messed up.
Well, I didn't say I wouldn't do that, but I'm
Okay,
gonna let you
good.
fly or crash and burn, and then we will do that.
All right.
Is the other the complaint?
There's a
One that's got
citation,
the
the
big
complaint.
Fort
and
Worth
charge.
Longhorn steer at the top of it is the complaint.
Yeah, is that what I also need as well?
Yes, you need that and you need the citation.
Okay, I think I've got both of these here.
Who's gonna be the officer?
Jason can be the officer.
Where is he at?
I'm gonna suck as a prosecutor,
is.
but I'll give it a try.
Jason, would you mind turning your camera on, please?
Hi,
Hello.
how you doing?
Good, are you?
I'm all right.
Let's see.
I can't believe Eric's not here. And what about Daniel and Anthony?
Well, they're just out of luck.
Well, did you send the email, right?
Does the
I'm sure you
defendant
did.
waive the reading of the complaint?
Do I waive it?
I asked you first.
Sure.
No, you don't.
Oh.
You don't ever waive the reading of the complaint into the record. Tell me why.
You wanna
Because
catch them?
they could have changed it from the complaint that I have in front of me.
That's one reason. What's the other one?
You said it last night, or not for, let me think. Because I'm I'm allowed to, this is where I'm gonna say that I'm guilty or whatever, or I get to enter my plea,
I
right?
didn't ask you for a plea.
Okay,
I asked if you waived the reading of the complaint. You said
Well,
yes, and I
I'll
said
say
you don't ever
no.
do that.
I'll say no, but I'm, you know, I can't remember what you said, what the reason why was. To not.
Especially if you're having a jury trial. If they read the complaint and everyone hears exactly what is written in the complaint, then they know what the complaint says to the degree that you get to go into everything in it. If the judge tries to argue that's not part of the complaint or the prosecutor does, you've already had it read into the record that it is.
That's right. And not only that, whenever you're
You've got
questioning the
jurors,
officer about the complaint.
Possibly if you took a jury trial, you've got jurors sitting there going, no, wait a minute. That it did say that because that's what was read. Why are you saying she doesn't get to address that? Provided, of course, your jury can actually read in the first place.
Right. Also, whenever you're questioning the officer about what was read into the complaint, and that's one of the things, statements that you can use, saying, is that what was read? And whenever they read the complaint into the record, you know?
Mrs. Prosecutor, would you please read the complaint?
Where is she at?
All right,
There she is.
hold on. Let me get that up here. I just had it.
Now, I
All
don't
right.
object anywhere during the complaint, do I? That's not,
It's the reading of the complaint.
okay,
Oh, you don't have to
Okay.
object to anything,
So
assuming
when-
you've already filed your written motion, but we'll
Okay.
get to that in a minute.
okay.
When we start the complaint, do we start at the state of Texas versus such and such? Or do we start in the name and by the authority of the state of Texas?
You just do the state of Texas versus the individual in the name and by the authority of the state of Texas, and then you read
Okay.
the rest of the body of the complaint and conclude with against the peace and dignity of the state.
Okay. State of Texas versus Jane, in the name and by the authority of the state of Texas. I, the undersigned affiant, do solemnly swear that I have good reason to believe and do believe that Jane, hereinafter called Actor, on or about 4/14/2022, and before the making and filing of this complaint within the territorial limits of the city of Fort Worth in the state of Texas, did then and there unlawfully drive and operate a motor vehicle upon a public street, to wit, the 4100 block of McCart Avenue at 33 miles per hour, which was then and there a speed greater than was reasonable and prudent under the circumstances then existing, said block of said street having a prima facie maximum speed limit of 20 miles per hour, said street having been therefore officially posted by an applicable official sign for a speed not greater than said prima facie maximum speed limit. Such sign stating the prima facie maximum speed is applicable when an accompanying light is flashing as provided by the ordinances governing motor vehicles and traffic in said city, the operation of Actor's vehicle having occurred when said light was flashing and on a day when school was in session, and against the peace and dignity of the state.
Peace and dignity of the state.
Does the defendant understand the charges?
Do I understand the charges? Yes,
Again,
I
asked
understand
you
what she
first.
read.
You do or you don't?
I understand what she read.
Do you understand the charges? Yes or no?
No.
What part of the charges do you not understand?
If you're talking about, do I comprehend what she said? Yes, I understand. But do I understand the charges? No, they're not legal.
How do you plead to the charges?
Not guilty.
Okay. A plea of not guilty will be entered on the record and we will proceed to trial.
Okay.
Mrs. Prosecutor or Madam Prosecutor, please call your first witness.
I call the police officer to the witness stand.
And the police officer is?
Okay.
Is this Jason?
Or Officer
Look at the
Prophet.
Complaint.
O-
What's in the
Officer
complaint?
Prophet,
Okay.
Officer Prophet.
What an apropos name for a revenue generator, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, it doesn't beat the word last name Warden. Okay, Officer Prophet, can you tell us what occurred? Well,
Wait.
let's see. How long have you?
Objection.
Listen carefully. When you're questioning your officer, you lay the foundation for his qualifications, his full name, his full job title, where he works, how long he's been there, what his experience level is. Then you ask for the specific events of the day. You've got to establish him as a credible witness. If
Okay.
you don't do that, they will get torn apart later.
Okay.
Is
Perfect.
Helen the prosecutor or her defense
Yes.
attorney?
Yes, she's
I'm the prosecutor. All right.
Okay.
So, Mr. Prophet, please state your name for the jury, please.
My name is Buford C. Prophet.
Very well. And what is your line of work, sir?
I am a peace officer for Fort Worth. Texas.
Okay. And how long have you worked for Fort Worth, Texas Police Department?
I've worked there for 15 proud years, serving my great nation.
Very good. Thank you. And what is your job title and duty,
Can we
sir?
loosen up the jock strap and not go quite so overboard with the officer, please?
Yes.
Well, how long have you been in your current position?
Well, I'll be serious. All right. I've been in my current position as a traffic enforcement officer for 10 years.
Okay. And what are your specific duties involved?
Well, my specific duties are to ensure that the traveling, or the, no, I was going to say traveling, that the ordinances of the state of Texas and the city of Fort Worth are strictly adhered to, and that people are not put in danger by reckless drivers.
Okay, very good. And so any training that you have as far as traffic is concerned, Officer Prophet, about how long ago was it that you've been updated on your training as far as traffic enforcement?
I was trained, updated 90 days ago.
Okay, very good. And Mr. Prophet, can you point out to me the defendant at this time?
That's the way
Objection.
to ask it.
Objection.
Oh, how should I
11.
ask it?
You don't say point out the defendant.
Okay, how do you
Did
say
you
it?
see the person in the courtroom who was
Oh,
accused
okay.
of the offense?
Okay, do you see the courtroom that has been accused of the offense in this hearing at this time?
I see her right there.
All right.
Filthy creep.
And can you tell me,
Describe an
Officer
article
Prophet?
of clothing that she's wearing, so we're sure we have the right person.
That woman there has a very interesting pattern to her button-down blouse, and she's wearing glasses, and she has long brown hair.
Very good. All right. And can you tell us about, did you have a encounter with the defendant on or about April of 2022?
I was engaging my laser
LiDAR system.
LiDAR system, thank you, and personally witnessed the defendant exceeding the posted speed limit. And
Objection, Your Honor. Oh, speed limit. This where I start asking him the questions about, like, is this where I start challenging him now? I guess it is, isn't it? No, I can't. That's whenever I cross, right? Oops.
I don't know. What is your purpose for objecting?
So, because he said speed sign,
And
and that's in the criminal complaint. And that,
And?
I object because it's assumes facts that are not in evidence and not previously stipulated to.
What supposed facts are not in evidence that has to do with the speed sign?
That he witnessed me exceedingly speeding in
How
the school
does
zone.
that have anything to do with the speed sign? He witnessed you speeding.
Okay,
So
I don't know
what does that
why.
have to do with the speed sign?
Okay, all right, go ahead, continue.
Overruled.
All right.
Proceed, officer.
Okay.
Seat officer.
Officer,
Yes.
you were,
Officer
Yes,
Prophet.
before I was so
Your
rudely
question.
interrupted, I saw this woman with my own two eyes exceeding the speed limit, and that was verified by engaging my LiDAR system, which has been entered into the record. And I promptly engaged my emergency lights and pulled her over, and to find out what the emergency was, why she happened to be speeding so recklessly in a school zone, because I'm here to protect the safety
okay,
of
now
little.
listen carefully. If you're going to testify, stick to the facts alleged in the complaint. Recklessly is not alleged in the complaint.
Nope.
You say recklessly, she gets to challenge that. If
Gotcha.
you're acting as the witness and you make an assertion that's not in the complaint, she can use that to dismantle you as a credible witness.
Oh, good.
Well, I could. I don't know if she could, but we would see.
Well, I'll be trying.
Okay.
So stick
And,
to the facts alleged in the complaint.
Okay.
all right. So, Mr. Prophet, about what time of day
Now wait,
did
Helen,
this? Uh-huh.
when he is claiming to have used a method of any kind to
Okay.
make his clocking of her speed, you have to
Mhm.
ask him questions about if he used a device, was it properly calibrated? If he
Okay.
used visual, how did he do it? Through pacing, visual distance over time? What? How did he gauge her speed? You've got to establish that everything he did was on the up and up, and everything he used was calibrated to the point where it would be effective and correct.
Okay.
So that prosecutor's obviously going to do her job, or his job, to make sure that all
Right.
that stuff is covered. So
Yes,
Sure.
but this is for Jane to practice. So Jane has to be able to hear what this prosecutor's supposed to do and how they're supposed to do it.
okay.
So she can determine whether or not she should be objecting to any of it.
Okay. So, Mr. Prophet, so you stated that
And it's
you,
Officer Profit. He's
yes,
there in his
Officer
official
Prophet.
capacity as a witness.
So, Officer Prophet, you stated that you used a LiDAR to measure the defendant's speed. My question would be, was that LiDAR recently calibrated to your knowledge?
I would have to get those records for you. I am not, would they, I don't know if they would have that, Eddie, would they?
They have to
Oh, are they-
calibrate any such speed testing device before every shift. They can't use it if
Oh.
they haven't calibrated it.
Oh, no, I was in a rush. I did not calibrate that.
Now you
LiDAR.
just let the accused
Yeah.
walk out the door scot-free.
I know.
Which is what we hope they do.
Yes.
Yeah, but they're not gonna do that. So just say you did
Well, the
calibrate it.
question is, Jane, did you notice that?
Well, I did notice that. I was writing notes, did not calibrate LiDAR.
I happen to be a professional, and I properly calibrate my LiDAR system before every shift. But
Okay, so changing your story.
I witnessed the defendant.
Okay,
I'm just switching it up. I witnessed the defendant obviously exceeding the speed limit based upon my years of professional service, and then I engaged my LiDAR system to verify said fact.
Okay. And,
Stop. Jane, why are you not objecting to his narrative?
I mean, because I was gonna cross and,
Jane, why are
what?
you not objecting to his narrative?
okay, okay, so objection, police officer is adding facts into the record that are not in evidence.
No, you
Uh.
just say objection, narrating.
Okay, I thought that, okay. I usually, I object, say it calls for a narrative. That's because somebody's asking the wrong question, but I didn't know that.
That would be objecting before the witness ever opens their mouth. This is an objection because the witness has opened their mouth.
Okay. Objection is narrating. I've never heard that objection before, but
It
objection is
doesn't happen very often because normally the witness is coached to answer only what is asked,
right.
not go beyond that.
They don't ad lib. Yeah.
Mhm.
You're opening the door for some bad stuff happening to you.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
Officer Prophet, could you tell me what, how do you,
Don't
How
go
do you-
in, we don't need to go into the details of how it's calibrated and all that other stuff, as long
No.
as we know how it actually has to be done.
yeah, I'm gonna ask him this question. I'm trying to formulate it. So how did you, did your LiDAR read at the time? Was it, or I don't know how to word this, like,
Are
if
you
you're
trying to
asking
ask
him,
about what the LiDAR reported she was doing as far as her speed, or how is it
no,
calibrated?
how does it like, tell him that the speed is exceeded? Does it do it digitally, or does it just, I'm not sure how to ask that question.
It'll appear, I'm just commenting. It'll probably appear as a digital readout. Plus, is there a light that flashes too? If somebody, just to get the cop's
No, a
attention?
LiDAR gun operates on a laser beam that is read and
Right.
measured by the device itself. It projects a beam. When it impacts a reflective surface, the beam scatters. What is
Right.
measured is the length of time between the firing of the beam and that scatter. And it is done in a repeated cycle to gauge speed over distance. So
Mhm.
he can hit you for 2 or 3 seconds with the laser, and depending upon how fast you move from the first contact to the 3-second in contact and all the ones in between, it will then calculate your speed.
Okay, so when it calculates the speed, does it do it by showing a digital number?
It shows the result on the screen.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So when you, Officer Prophet, when you clocked her speed and you pulled her over, what was the first thing you did?
Well, I went up to her window, knocked on the window, which she rolled down. And I informed her of my name and which city I was working for. And informed her, asked her for her license, registration, and proof of financial responsibility.
Okay. And how did she respond?
How did she respond? I don't know. It's not in the report.
Yeah, that's something we probably should, I gave you what happened, Eddie. What happened
He
on
did
the,
not supply any of the documentation requested.
what? I gave you a story the other day of what happened exactly.
Yes. And you said you didn't give him your license or anything else.
Oh, that's right.
She did
Okay.
not supply any of the documentation you requested.
But there was no mention of me being out of my car, or I guess I'll be doing that. Okay.
All right, Officer Prophet. So when you, or whenever you asked her for her documents, she did not reply or responded that she would not provide them. How did you respond to the defendant?
Informed her that it is the law that she properly identify herself when asked for such identification. She
Okay.
refused and continually refused.
She
Okay.
gave you her name, address, and date of birth, but she did not produce any physical documentation.
That's right.
Okay. So when she gave you her name and date of birth, what did you do next?
I went back to my cruiser and ran her name and date of birth. Found that she did own, or she did have a active driver's license. So
Objection? driver's license is not a term. That's, you're gonna get on to me. It's jurisdictional, isn't it? Sorry, never mind. I can't challenge that.
We don't care about definitions when we're doing a merits.
I know, but all those definitions are still stuck in my head from all the other practices that we did before.
There's
we
going to be
changed
a
it.
lot of things that stuck in your head that should not be talked about in the courtroom during this trial.
Okay.
Like when you had your first kid, like when you bought your first puppy.
I
nothing to do with it.
realize that. Okay, so no, I haven't missed any objections yet.
I didn't say that, but that one's not going to help you.
Okay.
Okay, Officer Prophet. So you ran her name and got her information. What did you do next?
I saw that she did have a valid driver's license, so I properly issued her a citation.
Okay,
Returned her car and issued her that citation.
and what was the citation issuance? What elements did you provide on the citation?
How am I supposed to know this?
So if you have the site, did you download the citation thing that he sent to the link today? He sent us another one that you could upload. He also has a
You not
copy
get
of
the
the
documents,
complaint.
Jason?
Yeah, I'm in your Google Drive.
Yes, it's in there. It's at the bottom. You'll see
The
it
Redacted.
documents you want, the complaint, it says redacted at the beginning.
has
Yeah, I
a
got it.
Longhorn's horn on it. Yeah. And then the next to it is the citation that was given.
Speeding in a school zone while lights were properly flashing. You're going
Okay.
33. She was driving at 33 miles per hour when the posted speed limit was 20 miles per hour when the school lights were flashing. And this posed a safety hazard to the school children. So I issued her a citation.
Objection, Your Honor. It's narrative. There was not any school children. I mean, he can't just add
You'll
narrative.
get you a
Can't add
chance to cross-examine.
Okay,
Overruled.
but objection, Your Honor, I wasn't driving. There's no, that assumes facts that are not in evidence, not previously stipulated to, and requires a legal conclusion by the fact witness.
Overruled. What did I say about definitions?
But you said that if it's in the
It's a
complaint,
merits argument.
if it's in the
Merits
complaint
don't
itself,
matter if you're not driving.
okay, but if it's in the complaint, like motor vehicles in the complaint, the actual complaint, if they say
So is
motor
drive.
vehicle,
So is
Huh?
operate.
yeah, operates there. Operate is there.
So is drive.
So I thought that, so you're gonna stop me from challenging what every piece of testimony that comes out of his mouth that's actually on this complaint. I can't challenge his personal knowledge.
Didn't say any of that. But if you're talking about challenging about what a definition means, that is a personal jurisdiction argument that we are not doing in a merits argument.
Okay,
You cannot mix the two. The moment you argue merits of an allegation, personal jurisdiction is automatically established and presumed. It does you no good to argue against it after that.
but so then I should argue about it before the trial, right, with a pretrial motion?
If you do that and then you try to defend yourself on the merits, you did the first part for nothing.
Okay,
Since we are defending on merits, you don't go after personal jurisdiction.
or definitions or anything like that.
Definitions are part of personal jurisdiction challenge.
Okay,
Please proceed.
Okay, Officer Prophet, could you please refresh? Now, you stated that you offered the defendant a citation and you were explaining the elements of that citation. Could you please repeat what you were charging the defendant with, please?
I charged her with a citation, which was speeding in a school zone while lights were flashing, identifying the fact that the speed limit was reduced during this specific time frame.
Okay. And how did the defendant respond when you provided her with said citation?
She challenged my authority to issue her a citation.
Right.
Okay. And how did she challenge you?
She claimed that she was not driving or operating a motor vehicle at the time of the alleged offense.
Okay.
I assume.
Okay. And can you tell me what were the weather conditions like at the time of this alleged stop?
There were no weather issues whatsoever. Service condition was fine.
Okay. About approximately what time of day was she pulled over and issued a citation?
Just after
8.
9 a.m., Jason.
8:50 a.m.
Okay. And were there any pedestrians or other people around at the time of this traffic stop?
In the general vicinity, because it was a school day, before school was starting, that there were pedestrians here and there,
Okay.
general vicinity.
Okay. Were there any students present at the time?
I would assume so based upon their age.
Okay. Were they around the area in which you were, I guess, stationed to offer the defendant the citation? Was there anyone around that vicinity where you were
In the
parked?
general vicinity where the lights were flashing, there were pedestrians who I am.
Objection, Your Honor. That's a lie, but I don't know how else to, I don't know what to,
Overruled. You can
Oh.
get through that cross-examination.
okay.
Okay. And how, I don't know if I asked this, but what was the traffic conditions like at the time, Officer Prophet?
I would say light to medium.
Let me see what else on this. I want to check this real quick just to be sure I don't miss anything. Eddie, stop me if I miss something. Let me know.
Well, you got the complaint in front of you. What have you not asked him about?
I'm
it?
looking.
Why wouldn't he want
Oh.
to attempt and verify financial responsibility? It says NA.
I refuse to give anything to him.
Okay, I'm looking else. Do you recall, Officer Prophet, exactly the street where the said traffic violation occurred again, please?
Around the Main Street and
4100 block of McCart Avenue.
that's right.
Okay, and you said that she was speeding, so I just want to get clarification. Typically, what is the speed limit of the said McCart Avenue?
At that time of day with the lights flashing, it is 20 miles per hour maximum.
Okay, and how fast was defendant
She was going,
alleged?
she was driving at 33 miles per hour.
Okay. And typically on a day where the lights are not flashing, what is the typical speed limit for that section of road?
Should be 35, shouldn't it, Eddie? Isn't that the
Doesn't
general?
tell us what it is posted at outside of school hours. So I
Yeah.
don't know. It's
Isn't it
either be
generally-
30 or 35,
I think
Uh-huh.
30.
possibly 25, but doubtful.
Okay. Now let me ask you this, Miss Officer Prophet. Were there any speed bumps in the area which could have possibly been used to help slow down traffic in the area?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I'm trying to think what else. Is there anything else I'm missing, Eddie? Because I'm checking here
Yes,
and
your
I
camera.
think,
Oh, yeah.
oh yeah. So, Officer Prophet, let me ask you, did you have any recording equipment that was turned on or working during the time of this alleged traffic stop?
Yes, ma'am. I had a body camera and body microphone active. And I also had the camera and microphone on the front of my cruiser active.
Okay, and they were in working order at the time of this stop?
That is correct.
And did you have any recorded footage of the traffic stop?
Madam
the
Prosecutor? I was
What?
referring to your camera on your iPad. Unless you're going to give her a gateway to rebuke your witness here and introduce video from his cameras, there's no reason to ask about
Kind of too late now.
Okay, so the prosecutor just needs to ask a
it.
simple
The
question. Did
prosecutor
you,
is only going to bring up the body cam and cruiser cam and audio recordings
and
if
whether or not if it
there's
was
charges in addition to this one.
Oh,
Something
okay.
like obstruction
Uh-huh.
or disorderly conduct or something like that, where her specific actions would have resulted in another charge and they would have needed the video to prove it.
Oh, okay. So then in that situation, they don't even ask about the recording device or the
don't.
microphone. They just leave that completely out
Correct.
and
'Cause
just give
it's
the
not needed
basic
to
of,
prove the elements alleged in the complaint.
I see. So then once we're done with that part, then the case rests from the prosecutor,
Yes,
correct?
as long as you've gotten, except for your redirect, and usually you will not rest. You will tender the witness.
Okay,
You do not rest until you've done your redirect.
okay.
That's right.
So how do I, as the prosecutor, then I say, I tender the witness to the stand, is
Just
that
say, I
correct?
tender the witness, and that's it.
Okay. All right,
Just make sure that you've covered every single thing in the complaint before you do that. Because you can't come back to something you have not introduced at this point and introduce it later.
okay. Let me see. I'm gonna check this one more time to be sure I've got that. Okay,
So
Ah.
Jane hasn't really done anything at this point
no.
to act in her favor just because she is not
Uh-huh.
capable.
There's one more
right?
thing I'd like to
Well,
ask.
she's
Officer
objecting to the
Pro-
wrong things.
What?
Uh-huh. Well, she'll find out in a moment. So Officer Prophet, one more question here. With the lights, we were talking about the speed limit. So how is that speed limit posted in the area on the 4100 block of McCart Avenue?
There is a white speed limit sign with a flashing light
Mhm.
apparatus on the top of the sign so that it is impossible for anybody who's reasonable to
Mhm.
to fail to understand that the speed is being reduced in the area.
Mhm.
And Madam
Okay.
Prosecutor, a follow-up question to that, in order to lock in your case a little tighter, is to ask, what is the distance between the posted speed limit sign and the flashing light warning of the upcoming reduction in speed?
Thank you. So, Officer Prophet, what is the distance
Approximate distance.
or the approximate distance between the flashing light and the posted speed sign?
Flashing light is affixed to the speed sign, if I understand this correctly.
That's right. Yes.
So that the driver or the operator of the motor vehicle will not miss it.
Okay, approximately, what is the distance between the speed sign?
He's saying they're
And-
on the same pole.
They're on the same.
pole.
Yeah, so they're on the same pole. Do they want approximate distance like in inches or?
No, we're
anything like
talking
that?
distance between them if they're on different posts.
Okay, perfect. All right, I tender the witness.
Because that ensures that the defendant cannot come back and argue that notice of the speed reduction, they can't see the speed sign, they can just see the flashing lights, but they don't know what they're supposed to slow down to.
Okay.
If they're so far apart, you can't see one for the other. But normally they are posted on the same sign with the speed sign either above or below the flashing lights.
Mhm.
Not
All right,
always, but usually.
All right. All right, and that's, I tender the witness at this time.
Okay. All right, so I get to cross. Okay, all right, officer, you have, you stated under direct that, you have expert vision and that your length of service as being a traffic officer, that your experience tells you by just personally witnessing a defendant speed, that you thought the defendant was speeding. So so I see that you have glasses on though. And did you have your glasses on that morning?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, are those prescription glasses, reading glasses, or?
These are glasses that are prescription that provide me with absolute crystal clear 20/20 vision, both in distance and in clarity.
Okay, well, how would you determine just by looking at someone what speed they were going?
Because I am a trained police professional.
Okay. All right, on the citation itself. Okay, wait a minute, before we go there. What kind of training have you had?
Well, I've been trained at the police academy. I've been trained in the function of the LiDAR systems. And I've been trained to properly execute a legal traffic stop and to perform those functions to the city standards of Fort Worth in the state of Texas.
Okay, okay, so on that morning, you testified that you were at, it was approximately 9 a.m., correct?
No, I was around 8:50 a.m. is when I actually witnessed you exceeding the speed limit. Miss
Okay.
Lynch.
And the speed, the speed zone signs that the traffic is supposed to be reduced between what time?
8:30 and 9:15 in the morning.
Wrong answer.
Whatever. I don't know the answer.
Between
to that.
7 and 9, but anyway.
right.
So on the actual, so you have a copy of the citation, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Can I interject?
Yes, please, because I'm getting thrown off here a little bit.
Jason just offered up a piece of testimony that was not solicited or responded to in any way by the prosecution.
Okay.
One being that or two, in fact,
Yeah.
one that he was trained on the LiDAR systems, which the prosecutor didn't ask him about and you didn't catch.
Okay. I didn't
And the
get.
other being that he enforces the traffic laws in compliance with the laws of the state of Texas and the ordinances of the city of Fort Worth.
Okay.
That second one, you should have immediately jumped
On for the ordinances,
No.
hit the
On
traffic
the fact
laws.
that he does so in compliance with the laws.
Okay.
Because here's the caveat.
Yeah.
If he has not been certified by the Department of Public Safety as a traffic enforcement officer with a reciprocity agreement between the DPS and the city of Fort Worth with his name on it, he is not enforcing the laws in compliance with the state.
Well, since he interjected that, I should have challenged it, but I thought that was jurisdictional. Unless the officer brings it up, then it's not any, I mean, it's fair game, right?
That would kind of be the point.
Okay.
The fact
can I act like-
is the officer just gave you an opening to prove that the officer acted illegally in his enforcement of the transportation code, and you did not catch it.
Okay, so I can act like I caught it.
Want to bet? I mean, yeah, give it a shot if you can.
can't go back, but I mean, in the real court, but
No, you
Um,
can. You can actually get to some point and say, now, a moment ago, you said,
okay, all right,
all right? But the
All right.
point is you better catch it now so you can come back to it. And
You're
then you
not
better have a
kidding.
plan of attack when you do.
okay. So, officer, you just stated that you were actually enforcing the traffic laws in the state of Texas. And, so, and I, before, back when I got this citation, back in April, I actually sent a public information request, in regards to your training. And on the side of the road, as a matter of fact, I asked you, because whenever you stopped me, we had a conversation. I was out of my vehicle and you
Mr.
told me to get back in my,
Prosecutor, why are you
What?
not objecting to lack of foundation for all of this?
oh,
I
they're going to be doing that, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so Laura, let me back up. Okay, on the morning of April the 14th, 2022, you stated that you were at the location of 4100 McCart, North McCart, correct?
Yes,
Okay, and you're stating that's where you were at 4100 North McCart?
I was in a parking lot adjacent to that location,
Adjacent
observing
to that.
traffic.
So, okay, so you were right there at the actual physical location where you say that you clocked my speed. You were at the same location where you clocked my speed?
I suppose so, yes.
Well, that's
I don't know
not
what the
Jane.
fuck.
what?
You used a device to measure your speed, correct?
Uh-huh.
What was your direction of travel in relation to the officer at the time he got your speed? Was it parallel or perpendicular?
I was running northbound and he was
I
shooting
didn't
radar.
ask you. I'm pointing out that's what you
Okay.
should be asking the officer.
Okay. What was the direction of that he was shooting the radar?
In relation to where you were sitting, what was my direction of travel? Was it perpendicular or
Damn.
parallel to you?
Okay,
Why is this important?
because I'm trying to find, because the complaint, the citation lists the actual distance that the LiDAR detected me at, from where he was.
Remember the argument you emailed me about your location versus his?
But what I'm saying is,
it could
Answer
affect the way,
question.
the
Do
distance.
you remember the email?
I do remember the email. You said that what he did was unlawful anyway. I don't even need to
No, I
go
did
there.
not. Listen to
Okay.
me. In that email, I told you that where you were versus he was is absolutely irrelevant unless you can absolutely prove that where he was versus where you were could not have possibly been, your speed could not have possibly been detected using the device he was using because of those locations.
Well,
So if you're going to make that argument, if you're coming straight at him or away from him, that affects visibility. If you're going parallel to him, that affects visibility because you're coming from the left and moving to the right. What objects or buildings or structures or trees or other vehicles are between you and him if you're moving parallel to him instead of perpendicular to and
So
from?
wouldn't that affect how that beam would have, or the time and the distance between her and the beam could have been diffused differently and affected the speed that he
If the
clocked
officer
her
is not
at?
able to focus on the specific target he had the whole time, yes. For instance, if she was traveling parallel to where the officer was sitting, she's going this way and the officer is this way. The only thing the
Perpendicular.
officer could have shot would have been the side of her car, not her license plate. The refraction will be different off of the metal of the car than it would the reflective material built into the license plate.
and they always do it at the license plates, don't they?
If they can, which means
Yeah.
you have to be coming toward them or away from them.
Okay, well, I was definitely coming towards him. So,
Okay.
I didn't
Again,
know they ended the license plate.
Did you have to go up and down over any hills that would have taken you out of the line of sight of him, of where he was sitting? Did any cars turn in front of you between you and him? Were there any parked cars that could have obstructed his view and his aim? All of those things matter. If
Okay,
you're going to make that argument about location, all that stuff matters.
okay,
If you're not prepared to make that argument, don't bring it up.
okay. Well, I'm not prepared, but because you're saying being prepared is having evidence that he was
Either you have
somewhere.
a plan for that question to help you, or that question is going to come back and bite you in the ass. End of discussion.
Okay,
Because once you open that door, the prosecutor gets to address it on redirect. Right now, she couldn't bring it up if she wanted to, because it's not a fact she got in her direct testimony. So unless you bring it up, she doesn't get to go back and address it. So
Well,
again, if you're
Mhm.
going to bring it up, how is it helping you?
well, how it would help me is if he identifies the location where he was,
Why?
because he were on the citation, it has the location of the offense. And if the offense is
The offense is relative to where you are,
right,
not where he or she, the officer, is.
exactly. I'm saying that if I was traveling in a northbound direction and he was at 41, the offense was at 4100 McCart Avenue. And he was
Then
further north
ask
of that.
questions relative to proving that specific point. Again, that is where going toward the officer, away from the officer, or parallel to the officer will give you the opportunity to do that.
Okay. So officer, when you were, approximately where were you on
He
the,
said he was in a parking lot adjacent to that block.
to the block, the 4100 North McCart? Okay. So, is this a normal place? Because at that location there, I have found that there's actually a pawn shop right there. Were you hanging out in the pawn shop parking lot?
Would the pawn shop have obstructed his view of you from where he was?
Yeah, because there's a Hummer that sits out there normally. And I'm thinking, since I didn't see him, that he was behind the Hummer and on his motorcycle, because he wasn't in a cruiser,
He wasn't in a cruiser. What was he in?
a motorcycle.
Motorcycle.
Oh, it was a motorcycle cop.
Yeah. So
Mm.
is that a normal location where you set up to?
Again, Jane, can you prove that's where he was?
No, he said that's where he was.
No, he said he
Oh,
was
you
in
mean
a
at the pawn-
parking lot. You specifically asked him about this location. If Jason's never been there, he's not going to know that.
Okay,
The
Well,
point
at-
is,
okay,
unless you can actually prove that's where the cop was, the specificity is not the problem. Direction of travel relative to his position, and was there anything between you and him that would have obstructed his view and use of the LiDAR?
okay. So
He's
was
going to
there,
say no.
and he's
I
gonna say no?
tracked you the entire time over this distance.
Okay,
So how does tracking you the entire time over this distance help you?
help me? Uh,
Let's say he tracked you for 3 seconds over what he considers to be a distance of 100 yards.
mhm.
Okay. Where did that 100 yards begin and where did that 100 yards end?
Right, that's my point.
But you're not making that point.
But what I'm saying is the LiDAR, explain to me what the LiDAR distance in feet. What is that measurement? Where does that measurement start and end?
That's the LiDAR's calculation of the distance from where it is and where the beam's scattered.
Okay, so it would be on my vehicle.
It would be where the
car.
laser splash is coming off of your vehicle. Yes, from where the officer was actually sitting. So he
Okay,
was sitting further away than a football field. Now, is this a little bitty hick country town he's in?
No,
Is it a city?
yeah, it's urban right there in Fort Worth, or, just like
Okay.
Dallas.
How far can you see down a street in that without it there being a curve or a hill?
There's
or even-
hills,
Huh?
there's hills. There was hills there, and there's a big curve too.
But are the hills enough to take your license plate out of the sight of his LiDAR?
Well, he was hiding. I remember, I mean, I didn't even see him. He
Well,
was
then how
all
do you know where he was hiding?
because, because I was coming over hill that I recall, but when I look on maps, it's not there. So I don't see a hill, but, I remember my momentum was going faster as I was approaching. I didn't even know the school zone was there, but I'm just saying, my momentum, I hadn't had a chance to slow down before he already clocked me.
The
I mean,
point
I was
here
already in the
is,
school zone after I came over a hill.
listen carefully.
Okay.
Unless you have a plan to use the information you get as a result of that question, it's a bad fucking plan.
Okay. Okay, then let's go to some of the other things that you stated actually in the citation. You have already testified and verified that you have expert vision. And so there's a question at the top of the citation in regards to the sex of the person that allegedly was speeding. And what did you write in there as far as the sex, the gender?
I don't, honestly, I
Hang
don't see
on,
that.
stop right there.
Okay,
Once again, lack of foundation, objection, lack of
Okay.
foundation.
okay.
Okay. If you're going to ask questions about the citation, you need to give the citation to the cop and ask him, is
Oh.
this a copy of the citation you
I did
wrote?
that a while ago. I said, may I
Who
approach
did
the
that?
witness? Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
And what did you say? you
Objection,
were giving?
I fear for my life.
Oh, hang on a sec. I gotta let these girls out. Talk
Okay.
amongst yourselves. I'll be right back.
You
Damn,
know,
this is
none of
so
this
much
would have
harder.
happened if you weren't acting irresponsibly, Miss Lynch.
This is so much harder than
You are
I,
obviously not the slave that your contemporaries are. So we seem to have a problem here.
yeah, we have a problem, that's for sure. Yeah,
Oh, God.
because you're
This
not,
prosecutor is gonna take a break because she's cooking.
uh-oh.
And so
Well,
I'm washing
Eddie-
dishes and cooking.
Eddie
Well, he'll
will
be
have-
back
Mute-
with his,
mute your screen though, because we saw you washing dishes earlier. It was interesting.
so sorry. It's just when the husband comes in, it's like clockwork.
Well, I had already had a plan. See my plan right here? I had I have the picture of the speed device. And I actually had thought I had proven that I wasn't even in the school zone. But anyway, but Eddie shot that down. So.
What does that say? State of Texas branch?
Where? Oh,
Judicial
yeah.
branch. Oh.
Judicial branch. Okay. Credibility of the officer. So let me see here.
Never question my credibility or my integrity. I am a professional.
You better hurry up. I'm not gonna have time to go back through this a second time with you. if
Okay,
you don't get this done.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm gonna give him a copy of the citation. Unless you have it already.
Just give him what you're going to give him and then ask him if he recognizes what it is.
Oh. Do you recognize this, the citation that was given to me on the morning of April 12th or April 14, 2022?
Yes, I can confirm that this is the citation that I issued professionally.
Okay. There's a couple of places on the citation itself. Okay, whenever you stop me and I got out of my car and you told me to get back in my car, but I asked you a couple of questions. Do you remember what those were?
No, I don't
Okay.
know, obviously.
Well, one of the questions but I didn't give you my information. I didn't give you my driver's license or my phone or my insurance or anything. And so, but you said you have excellent vision. But on the
Wait a
citation,
minute, stop.
okay, I thought it was laying the foundation.
No, what you're doing is confessing to further offenses the prosecutor going to come back and charge you with.
Okay,
I didn't provide you with my license. I didn't provide you with insurance. I didn't provide you with any of that.
well, that's not breaking the law.
Yes, it is.
I gave him my name and birth date and address.
If you say that you did not produce those things, there's specific offenses in the transportation code that makes it possible to charge you for that.
Okay. All right, scratch that.
Do
I didn't
not
say that.
elaborate and story tell. Ask a freaking question.
Okay, well, I was trying to, but you said I had to lay
No.
foundation.
Laying foundation you do by asking questions, not making statements.
Okay. So, as far as is that what you call them, demographics?
No.
What do you call those, personal identification information?
What
What do I
about it?
call that section up there?
I don't understand your question.
The section up there where it says violator, my address.
Ask them about the section on the ticket. They're labeled violator, additional information.
Okay, all right, so I don't call it.
violations. That's the titles in the boxes.
Okay, all right, officer, can you look at on the top left-hand side of the citation where it says the violator information? And will you please tell me what it is that you wrote in the box that says sex?
Lady, I don't know how often you have sex. It's none of my business. I don't see the sex gets blocked out sufficiently in black.
Well,
They put them M for male.
they put an M.
Oh,
for it now.
really? Isn't
Yes.
that enough to throw the whole thing out?
No, I doubt it.
No?
Okay,
It
But,
is.
um,
It is a way to impeach the credibility of the witness, but she has not laid a foundation for asking this question that's going to help.
I'm
her
still
do
trying to figure out how to ask the damn question. It's the information
Can
he
you
entered.
identify the difference between a man and a woman, Officer Smith?
Well, have I even gotten there yet?
Would that be the
That-
way you
you
say it?
should have gotten there before you ever asked him the question about what's in that box.
So
Okay.
how could she ask it? Could she say, Officer Prophet, do I look like a male or a female?
No,
No, Officer Prophet, during his testimony in this case, specifically testified that he had 20/20 vision.
yeah,
He had great observational skills. Isn't that your testimony, Officer Prophet?
yeah. So easy when you say it. And then, okay, so if that's your testimony, if that is your testimony, correct? That you have
Yes.
20/20 vision.
That's right.
Okay. Well, can you tell between the difference between a man and a woman?
I do, but these days you can't tell anymore.
Because so in the box for the sex, you identified me as male. And so that tells me that makes me question the credibility of you as a witness and your sight.
Gee, you're going to question the credibility of the witness over what you just shown to be one typo, potential typo. Good luck with that.
Okay, so that's not the only thing.
Then
and
don't bring
also-
it up until you have more things to throw at him.
Well, I didn't get to throw them in yet.
That's right. So why are you questioning credibility until you prove he's made
Okay,
more
don't
than
say
one
the credibility
mistake?
yet. Okay, don't say credibility. Okay. So at the top box under the violator, also too, you identified my race as being white. Did you redact all that?
No, he didn't. He
he
identified
did at
your
the
race
top.
as being unknown.
No, at the top box, it says white. At the bottom, he says unknown.
Okay. Why the contradictory information then?
I don't know. So, but at the bottom, officer,
No, that's a question for you to ask the witness.
yeah, That's what I'm asking him. So officer, at the top, under the violator information, you wrote that that I'm the race of white. But here at the bottom, under the violations, the box that asks you if you knew the race, you said no. So why did you change your answer between the top box and the bottom box? Yes.
Interesting observation. That's, I don't know how he would reply to it, but that is something that is an inconsistency. So there's two inconsistencies.
Well,
Already.
now remember, this is based upon an assumption that we know what new race actually is supposed to mean on this citation. The
You know
way
that's
new
what it
is
means.
spelled K-N-E-W. That's more like a question. The question is, it's a question for who? The officer or the defendant?
It's not a question that it has specific items in that box relate, and they're separating that from the top one because they want to make sure it's not a hate or like a prejudicial thing. But that's what
Really?
it
What are
is.
you basing that on?
Just
Where does the
common
citation
sense.
say that's what's in that's the only thing they can put in the
Okay, so
box,
I
not
can
no.
ask him. So I can ask him what that new race means.
Assuming he knows, sure, you can ask him. What does this new race box mean? What is that asking about? If you're
Okay.
not asking those questions. You're just making statements about what's in it.
Okay, so officer, what is the box down here that says new race, K-N-E-W race? What is that? A question?
That's actually a question to ask if you knew what race I am and see if you're prejudiced.
Objection, Your Honor.
You are prejudiced.
Sustained.
Huh?
Sustained.
Okay, all right, so do I have to go
What-
further on that?
Do we really know what that means? Because that is relevant.
It is relevant, but she hasn't bothered to ask anybody what it means yet.
But
So
do
we
you know
don't
what it means?
Well, who
actually
do I
means. We're
ask?
only
I-
guessing.
Oh,
Do
I
you
just
know what
had-
it means though currently?
do you know what that means?
I directly no, but based upon the context and how it's used on here, it can't mean a whole lot of different things.
Okay, officer, also in this box here under the violations, you wrote that there was no workers present, correct?
That's correct.
And it was a school zone, correct?
That is correct.
But there was no accident, correct?
Correct.
Let's see here, and I'm doing my cross, and so I don't know, I'm getting confused about when I'm supposed to say, well, blah, 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 blah. Are you familiar with, the Texas transportation codes?
Yes, ma'am.
And specifically one that's primi facie speed limits, chapter 545.352.
Section 545.352. The chapter is 545.
Oh, okay. Are you familiar with chapter 545 with the Texas Transportation Code?
I know that my training supervisor is well versed in those codes. I can't possibly know every code there is. I'm just trained to do my job, lady.
Well, okay. Speaking of training, have you been certified by the DPS, DOT, and authorized to enforce traffic laws?
I assume I've been properly trained, ma'am. Otherwise, I would not be out on the road in a cruiser supervising traffic, would I?
His response most likely would have been, I'm authorized by my department as an assigned part of my duties to enforce the traffic laws.
Thank you.
Okay, so are you, then, so I'm not making the argument about that I know what the training is supposed to be and all that kind of stuff, and he hadn't had
I
it
didn't
even.
say that, did I?
No, but okay, so officer, when we were at the location where you stopped me and you had approached my vehicle, I don't know if that's too many questions in one, that's compound questions.
Okay, hold on. The answer I gave for what the officer should have said, okay, the one I gave should have got another follow-up question from you.
Okay,
What was that question? Or what is that question?
the question was,
No. My question or my statement was what the officer would have said, which is that he is authorized to enforce the traffic laws by the municipality and the department for which he works.
Okay.
You have a follow-up question to go for that answer.
Oh,
What is it?
So, what specific traffic laws are you referencing in your train that?
No,
Okay, what?
Which department are you referencing?
he is saying his authority comes from his department and municipality.
Mhm.
Your follow-up question should be, well, is the transportation code local law? Is it ordinance or is it state law?
Okay, so,
He's going
Is
to
the
have to say it's state law.
okay, so is the transportation code that, is that, a transportation code, is that state law? Is that a municipal ordinance or is that local law or what? Officer,
He's asking you, Jason.
That is state law, ma'am.
okay, so,
Now, what's the follow-up question to that answer?
trying to think, well, follow-up question, I can't make my statements, so with that,
Every follow-up question you have is meant to destroy his statement about where his authority comes from.
okay, so, were you trained, by the Department of Public Safety
No,
to enforce state?
no foundation for that question.
Okay, damn, this is so much harder than I thought.
Just pay
You
the
think?
ticket and be done with it.
Hell no. All right. Okay, so I mean, I have the questions that are challenging to the complaint, but I haven't gotten off the citation yet, so, but I don't know how to address the thing with the question, with the training, because
See,
it feels like a
this- okay.
jurisdictional.
Stop. This is what I was talking about having a plan and a strategy. You should already know exactly what questions you're going to ask and why.
Every
You
question
should
I ask,
already
you
have an
say,
outline for exactly what you're going to follow up with based upon whatever answer you think you're going to get.
but I'm getting stopped by saying that I don't have the foundation to ask those questions.
Then you haven't laid out your outline very well if you're getting stopped because of lack of foundation. Every question you ask has to be based upon something that was already put into the record from somewhere, whether it be the complaint, the citation, or the officer's testimony. Okay? Those are the three areas from where you get to think about what questions you're going to ask and why. And you outline everything you're going to do based upon those three sources.
Okay, maybe I should move over to the complaint. Because, and maybe come back to because I can go back to it.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay,
And I thought I had done this and made this point clear enough before we ever began, but I was going to give you enough rope, so to speak.
uh,
Why are you talking about the frickin' citation when there is absolutely nothing in that motion I gave you dealing with the fucking citation?
well, only because there's,
I didn't ask you for an explanation. I asked you for a straight up answer.
You said
would
why?
you go into that when it's not in that motion?
because it has problems on it. You know, like I wanted to ask about the audio video camera. How come he recorded
Jane,
my
Jane,
body?
I
but didn't-
cannot make this any clearer.
Okay,
The problems are the ones you're making for yourself here.
okay, all right.
You are running off on fucking tangents. You need to stop doing that.
Okay,
Everything you need to blow this case out of the damn water is in that motion. Everything.
yeah, I know.
And she just say, I stand upon my motion and
Not
not,
if she's going to get it into the record, she can't.
I can't. I have to argue the motion?
Yes, you do.
I thought I could just,
No, you can't.
Okay. Then I can ask you. I mean, this has already been filed into the record. And this is related to transportation and the authority to enforce transportation, state of Texas transportation laws. And since you mentioned that you have training on this, was that training done by a DPS or DOT? Where'd you go?
I'm here. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
Or were you certified by DOT or no, Department of Transportation to enforce Texas
I
state?
was certified by my department.
DOT does not certify the officers to enforce the transportation.
No, I meant, I meant to say DPS. So DPS, did you not get any training, specific training for certification? To
Okay,
enforce?
again, there is no foundation for that question. Okay?
Well, he said that he had training from his department
Yes, he
and,
did. So you need to
enforce
find
Texas.
out what specifically his training was,
okay,
where he got it from, to the best of his knowledge.
okay.
Then you
Officer,
can impeach his training responses by giving him what the law specifically says is required.
okay, but that's not part of what we were trying to challenge for this, I didn't think. I thought you said we're only supposed to use the 4 statutes.
Yeah.
545, 352, 351, 1.03, and you know, as far as the training and all that, I don't know that. As far as
Then
I know it's
why are you asking?
because I'm asking because he told me on the side of the road that he's not trained by the DPS for to enforce state of Texas traffic laws.
That's
he?
well and good. But
Okay,
if you don't already know what to do with that information, why are you asking about it at trial?
I guess I'm flip-flopping around trying to figure it out how to,
Yeah, you're pretty much like a grounded bass caught on a hook.
yeah.
Somebody flipped you up on the shoreline and you're just flopping all over the place.
Well, no, okay, so then let's go to the complaint itself. May I approach the witness?
Go ahead.
Okay, officer, is this a copy? Can you identify this as a copy of the complaint that was read into the record at the beginning of the trial?
Yes, that looks to be accurate.
Okay. And where are my questions? Hang on. Oh, here they are. And this is the document. Okay, I already asked you that. It was read into the beginning. Okay. Is this complaint specifically makes a charge of speeding, correct?
Correct.
And the speed limit that you are alleging that was violated was posted on a speed sign where you issued the citation, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Officer, can you please describe what is the purpose of a speed sign in Texas?
Speed sign is to properly notify the operators and drivers of motor vehicles on the Texas roadways about the maximum safe speed in which their motor vehicle can travel without posing a danger to the public at large and to the peace of the city.
Really? Is that the extent of your personal knowledge related to speed signs?
Yes, ma'am.
And
That's
is that how
that's
you,
common knowledge, isn't it?
is that how you understand the law pertaining to speed signs?
Yes, ma'am, the speed signs regulate traffic, regulates the speed in which motor vehicles may be operated or driven.
Judge, at this time, I would like for the officer to read for the court the Texas Transportation Code 201.904, which is titled Speed Signs.
Go ahead.
Where is he at? Do you have it over there,
Yes, I do.
officer? Can you read that section?
Well, obviously he's going to read it. So then you're going to catch him on.
Well, go ahead and read it. It's not very long.
Speed signs. The department shall erect and maintain on the highways and roads of this state appropriate signs that show the maximum lawful speed for commercial motor vehicles, truck trailers, truck tractors,
Tractors. Truck
Yes.
Trailers.
trucks, semi-trailers, and motor vehicles engaged in the business of transporting passengers for compensation or hire, or buses. That should be that, right? Case closed.
Yeah, that's what, okay, so anywhere, so within that code, let me see. Right now, can you tell me the specific commercial motor vehicle as listed in
Objection,
what?
irrelevant. Judge,
It's-
this statute goes specifically what the speed signs relative to commercial motor vehicles are. It has nothing to do with the defendant who was not in a commercial motor vehicle.
That's right, I wasn't in a commercial motor vehicle. So what I'm,
Exactly. Therefore, this section's irrelevant, Judge.
it's not irrelevant. It's because that is the only definition in the Texas Transportation Code that
But
has
you
any
haven't
definition.
laid any foundation for that up to this point, have you? You
Well,
haven't
yes,
shown
I asked,
how the speed limits are limited to specific signs yet, have you?
oh, okay, yeah, so then, so officer,
It's a little too late.
no, I'm just getting there. I haven't gotten there yet. I
No,
shouldn't
there
have asked
is
him
no
that
such
question.
thing as getting there if you're going out of order.
Okay, I gotta get out.
You remember
Okay.
this thing I told you about have a plan?
Yeah, I know, but I can't like do it midstream like right now whenever, I mean, I wrote a plan, but that's not working, obviously.
Jane, this is why you have to know this stuff and be able to do it off the top of your head and on the fly. Okay? This is what I've told you from the very beginning of these
Out of
classes.
order. Okay,
You
so,
have to learn to think on your feet. What did I tell you just the day before yesterday about the order in which these statutes should be taken?
well, I thought it was, I know it's the 352,
Then
And
why
then
didn't
the-
you start there?
because I thought the 204, 904 was first before that, but I guess.
No.
Okay,
First, you
so-
have to see what speed limits are.
Okay,
Then you say, how is the public given notice of the speed limits? And you get them to admit that the sign mentioned in the complaint and the speed limits in 352 are put together pursuant 201.904. Then you
Okay.
go to 201.904.
okay, officer, are you, can you read, permission to approach the witness, Your Honor?
Please
Um,
do.
Okay, officer, this is a copy of the chapter 545.352, which is primi facie speed limits. And can you read through the complaint and actually count out the number of times that you come across the word offense or the word misdemeanor in this section right here? That, and do you know, actually, I can't.
Stop.
Okay, go
Stop.
ahead, answer. Okay,
Are you just making up this question as you go?
no,
You're sure? You wrote it down this way?
yeah, that's the way that you said it in the video.
I did not say read through the complaint and tell me if you see the word offense.
No, you said count how many times that you see the word
Not in
offense.
the complaint.
Not the complaint, but the actual code, the code where I just got through saying 545.352. Can you read under primi facie speed limits and tell me how many times the word offense or misdemeanor that you come
Again.
across?
Wrong order.
Okay,
First, you go through the statute and ask about the speed limits, where they apply and how the public is given notice of them. And
Okay.
now, officer, while we're here, can you please look in this complaint and tell me if you find the words misdemeanor or offense?
okay,
And when they say no, then you say, do you find any language that says a person commits an offense if, or a person is guilty of an offense if?
okay. So,
Okay, well, I don't see any of that.
okay, you don't see that in the complaint or
In the law.
in the law? Okay, so crap.
I
So
told you when we
then,
started these classes, I do not take prisoners when I do this. You've got to
Okay.
learn to think
It
under
doesn't.
pressure because these people are not going to be nice.
I
to you.
know, I know. I didn't know it was gonna be this hard. So anyway, officer, in regards to section, 545.352, this particular section has to do with the conditions or the roads as far as the speed limit signs on specific roads. So I wanted to ask you if you think that hold on, I gotta find my question. And there's nowhere in that section that that brings up the word offense or misdemeanor. This section is only for identifying what the speed limits are on those-
Objection, is the witness
specific
going,
type-
or is the defendant going to ask a question, or are they just going to tell the officer what
I guess
everything is?
Yeah, my question is that shit. Oh, I don't know why I'm getting so jacked up here. I don't know why I feel so much pressure, damn it.
You're in the hot seat.
I know, I don't like that. But I'm
Hey,
gonna
you're
have
the
to
one
get
that
ready.
wanted to practice.
I know, where did I just printed out? Oh, here it is right here. Okay, hang on. Let me look at
This is
something.
like herding cats with a snowblower.
Okay, all right, so I gave you the copy of the transportation code 545.352, and this section of the code identifies where the speeds across various types of roads across the state of Texas. Would you say that the types of roads described in this section, that the prima facie speed signs posted are the same throughout the state? Hold on.
No, absolutely not. Road conditions and situations will vary. Therefore,
You
it will
didn't
not always
understand the
be the
question.
same throughout the state.
I'm saying as far as the prima facie speed signs, as far as the
You
types of
haven't
roads.
said a word about speed signs. We're talking about the speed limits.
Okay, this is speed, prima facie speed requirements is what the,
Limits. Not requirements, limits.
okay. So are the speed, prima facie speed limits that are posted on the signs throughout the state of Texas, is that the way that the public is to get notice of the posted speed or of the speed? Would you say that? I don't know how to ask it, Eddie.
I'm getting that. You're not
But-
thinking this through. Hence,
Because I would have
whatever-
already
you're
asked
not-
him,
You are
the
not
purpose of the
creating
speed
yourself a
sign.
plan because you're not thinking about how this is going to play out before you ask a question.
okay,
That's obvious. First, you have him read the statute, okay? Then you ask him, officer, you see this phrase prima facie. Do you know what that means? Do you, officer?
Yes, I do.
What does it mean?
Means on its face.
And examples
It
of
is
on
so-
its face
it
would
is
also
so
be
plainly
first
obvious.
glance, or unless otherwise proven otherwise, or unless contradicting evidence or information is put into
Yes,
place,
it's the
et
general
cetera,
rule.
correct?
It is the general rule unless something contradicts it.
There you go. Thank you very much. That's trap number one laid down. Trap number two should be what, Jane?
do you know the purpose of a speed sign in Texas?
Nope.
Okay,
Trap number two, officer, all the speed limits that are stated within this statute. How is the public supposed to be given notice of what these speeds are if they haven't read this statute?
yeah. How is that?
These simple truths are covered in driver's ed training, Jane.
No, how is the?
Officer,
how is
that's
the
a
public-
question. Please respond. How are these speed limits provided, the public provided notice of these speed limits if they aren't reading the statute?
Purpose of the speed limits is to inform
I
the
didn't ask
public
for the
at
purpose of
not
the
large.
the
speed
question.
limit, officer. I asked you, how is the public given notice of these speed limits if they're not reading the statute?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Well, here in the complaint, it says that there's a sign posting the speed limit. Is that correct?
Sure.
And so this sign, is that what these speed limits in 352 are supposed to be posted on, or signs just like that one?
Yes, sir.
And that's how the public is given notice of what those speed limits on that particular roadway are?
Obviously.
Now you've got foundation for 201.904, Jane.
Okay.
Last question on 352, officer. After reading through this from beginning to end, can you please tell me where in this statute you find the word offense?
I do not see it in this statute.
Then can you please tell me where you find the word misdemeanor?
Cannot see that either.
Then can you please tell me where you see any language that is approximately similar to a person commits an offense if, or a person is guilty of the offense of in this statute?
No, I cannot.
So this statute itself does not define an offense.
Correct.
Yes or no?
Correct.
Now we go where, Jane?
Okay, so if there's no offense or no misdemeanor identified in this section of the code related to prima facie speed limits, which are posted on the speed signs, as you testified, then what is your what is the purpose of a speed sign?
To identify,
Asked that question and he answered that question.
I know, but well, you said I did out of order, so I thought I had to do it again. Since you did 352, so I thought we were going back to
I
where,
just did 352 for you and asked you, where do we go now?
well, if I'd have done it in order, we would have went to speed signs right now.
If I don't do this for you, we're going to run out of time.
Okay,
and you're not
then
gonna get to
do
do
it.
it at all.
Then do it, then do it.
I'm trying to
it.
get you to understand how to follow these steps and lay this out logically so it makes sense to whoever you're testifying to, whether it be a judge or a jury. If you are
Okay.
jumping all over the place, you are going to lose your jury or your judge, and you're going to lose your case.
so shouldn't she have just avoided everything that she spent the first hour and a half
Yes,
talking about?
she should have.
And just
Avoided
go
everything.
right
I'm not,
into this?
it's been the whole hour and a half talking about. Okay, so, all right, then go ahead, take it, take it.
I don't want to take it. I want you to do it, but I want you to think while you're doing it.
No, I mean, I was trying to go back in the order that you said, so, but go ahead and do it because
Fine. Put everything I just did in your own words and let's get it done.
as
Or
far
use
as like
my words. I don't give a shit. Just do something
352?
that gets us in your favor.
352?
Yes.
Okay. So, officer, you've read the statute,
Nope. If you're going to do it, take it from the top. Handle 352.
and he's actually going to read this whole thing.
No. Ask him to read. We will assume he's read, then do
Okay.
your next question.
Okay, so can you read the statute 545.352 titled prima facie speed limits?
Into
Now,
the record?
Again, how do you get the statute in his hands?
Oh, may I approach the officer, approach the witness, Your Honor,
You may. For what purpose?
to hand him a copy of this prima facie speed limits, chapter 545,
No.
352?
You should have a copy of the transportation code book. Okay.
Well, I don't have that.
You're supposed to ask the clerk of the court.
Oh,
to make
I am
sure
gonna-
There's a copy present in the courtroom on the day in question.
Okay, I did, I'll ask him when I go again, but I already told him that in the
You
email. that-
file a written request. Don't
Okay.
just ask, file a written request.
Okay. So, so here I'm
What-
providing you with this and, if it's okay,
So my question is, if she did it in email, wouldn't that count as writing?
As long as she can produce that email for court, yeah.
yeah, I can.
But the problem is the email to the clerk may or may not wind up in the court record. A filed request by you will be in the court record.
Okay.
So you're
Uh-huh.
asking to receive asking the clerk, written request for the clerk to produce a physical copy of the Texas Transportation Code.
To make sure that one is present in the courtroom at trial, yes.
What if they just have it on their computer, access it online?
If they bring it up on their computer, then they are accepting that as official source, and you need to make sure that they admit to that on the record.
Okay,
Is the court accepting the online version of this as the official source? Yes or no?
okay. All right, so if we're gonna have a chance, if we're gonna run out of time before we get through all this, I don't want to keep doing it. I want you to just do it.
No,
I
I
want-
want you to get the practice, but you need to be thinking.
Okay, so.
You give
What
him the
is,
transportation code, you have him read the section, he reads the section. Now what?
okay, do you understand, officer, what the definition is, prima facie speed, is prima facie,
Sure,
and what would that be?
he'll tell you what it is. But he'll tell you what his understanding of it is.
Okay,
Or what he thinks it is, which you probably won't know, but just in case.
Yeah, what he's been told it means.
Now, what should you have in support of him not answering the question, saying, I
well,
don't
I
know?
have, Matt, right here on the document that I just handed you, I have the Black's Law definition of prima facie. Can
Do
you
you
read
have a
that?
copy of the Black's Law Dictionary with you?
I don't have it, but I have it, I don't know, I have this guy, or I have what it defines as, or whatever.
Well,
I don't have a
gee,
copy. I'm not
if you
gonna
don't
carry.
have a
big freaking
copy
dis-
of Black's Law with you, then why don't you ask them to have a copy of that in court along with the transportation code?
Okay, I guess I can do that too. But anyway, this is the definition out of Black's Law
And
Dictionary,
which edition of the dictionary is it?
1228, 8th edition, a prima facie. And you can't see this, but anyway, so the definition, I'm asking him to define it, or rather read the definition to him, or what?
He should read it, right? The cop?
No, you should ask to approach, you should hand it to him and say, this is from the online dictionary, and give the site for it, which it should have when you make a copy of it. It should, down at the bottom, there's a little link that says, cite this source.
Okay,
And whatever you put that definition in, you need to apply that source to it.
okay. So what is your definition? What is the definition of prima facie?
Can you please read this
Can
definition?
you please read it?
Since he doesn't have it, you read it.
Okay, prima facie is evidence sufficient to establish a fact or raise a presumption unless disproved or rebutted. So it's
Correct.
at first
Unless
impression,
disproved or rebutted.
right?
So, officer, wouldn't that mean that a prima facie maximum speed is a speed that is accepted until it is disproved or rebutted?
Yes.
Okay,
You get that, Jane?
yeah, I got it. Yes. So are you aware, or so I'm not going back to the speed signs?
No, listen carefully. Do you see it in A of 352 right here where it says prima facie evidence? Evidence of what?
That is
That the
speed,
speed is not reasonable and prudent and the speed is unlawful. The definition of prima facie, the way I just asked him about it, destroys that statutory presumption and set of conditions. Therefore, proving that the speed was reasonable and prudent, and thus this element cannot be proven by the prosecution.
and is that because it doesn't identify school zone as being one of the elements in this?
No,
Okay,
it is because regardless of the zone, the maximum speed limit posted is still prima facie. It is not absolute.
okay,
Therefore, they must prove that the speed was not reasonable and prudent. Not just assert it, but actually prove it. This is how we get to 352 later on. Do you understand the connection here?
Yes.
Are you sure?
So the way that so then I have to get them to prove it by statute as far as which one of these applies to my situation?
Again, you ask your proper questions. Officer, on what basis are you asserting that my speed was not reasonable and prudent according to the provisions of this statute? Well,
Okay,
you were going faster than the posted speed limit. Are
okay.
you saying that simply going over a prima facie speed limit is evidence that it was not reasonable and prudent? And if he says yes, he goes, so your argument then is that the statute prima facie means absolutely nothing. That simply going faster than what's posted is all that matters, even though that posted limit is prima facie. The prima facie part of that statute must be ignored. Is that your testimony, officer? Is that your assertion about how to read a law? That you just get to throw away words you don't like or are inconvenient to the outcome? See where I'm going with this?
Officer?
I quit.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Because I don't know if I'm supposed to have him identify which part of this statute applies to the situation I was in.
Do you give a shit?
Okay, I guess I don't. So next, can I approach the witness
You may.
with, this is a copy of Texas Transportation Code 545.351, which is a maximum speed requirement. And, can you read this statute to see if you see the word, again, like before on offense or the word misdemeanor in this statute? But
Okay.
actually, before I get there, hold on. This maximum speed requirement is, it says an operator may not drive at a speed greater than is reasonable and prudent under the circumstances.
Why
then
are you
existing.
reading it?
Oh, you want him to read? Okay. Well, okay, so I just read, all right. So then,
You approach the witness. What are you going to do? Tickle his chin? Give him a kiss? What?
no, I'm asking him if he would read that statute to
Then
find
why
out.
are you reading it?
Okay, all right, officer, will you read the statute to find how many times you encounter the word misdemeanor or?
No, you haven't laid foundation for that question yet.
Damn it. Okay. Okay, officer, can you tell us what the purpose of this statute is?
No. You cannot ask the officer what the purpose of the statute is. You're asking him to make a legal conclusion.
Okay. So ask him to read it?
Which we will assume he's done. Now ask
Okay.
a question that helps you instead of
Okay.
hurts you.
So you've just read the statute and in there, you mentioned that a person cannot drive a speed greater than is reasonable and prudent under the conditions having regard for actual and potential hazards then existing. So, and then the second part of that, it says, and part of that is to avoid a collision with another person entering the highway or in compliance with law. So, was I avoiding a collision, or did I cause a collision on that day, on that morning?
No, ma'am.
Objection. The question doesn't make any sense. She's mischaracterizing the statute.
Okay, that's colliding with another person or vehicle. Okay. Is there any evidence against the fact that the speed that I was going was necessary to avoid colliding with another person or vehicle that was entering the highway in compliance with the, that's not how to answer it either, huh?
No, it's not.
Okay, there's specific, let's see, conditions that relate to the statute that these elements have to be proven in order to assert that the speed was not reasonable and prudent. And
Objection.
what?
We fail to see how this statute is relevant to the charge alleged in the complaint.
Because this is maximum speed requirement as identified. I don't know. Go ahead and take it because I'm wasting time. I don't know
If
how
I
I'm gonna
do
do this.
this, how are you going to practice?
Because I'll just have to watch it over and over, but it just seems like it's different every time. So
It is different because the situation is fluid, and that's what you've got to be prepared for. Nothing that's going to happen in that court is linear, ever. Do you understand that?
yeah,
They are going to do everything they can to break your stride and interrupt you and cause you to fluster and flounder.
yep.
That's the first rule to stop that, is to know the subject better than they do. Have I not said this?
Yeah.
Now, Jason and Ruby, being one of the few people that were in the live classes down there, can tell you one thing about me when it comes to doing this shit. And that's that I can talk at the top speed off the top of my head without even thinking about it and get the answer right.
I know.
Because
go up there
I
with her?
know this subject so freaking well. And like I said, don't ever ask me to go back and repeat what I just said after I've done one of those little stints, because I couldn't tell you. My brain was barely keeping up with my mouth. Everything was on automatic pilot, and I was not even thinking about it. So the only way you're going to get a replay is for me to go back and watch the video so I can explain what the hell I just said.
Right. Well, can we just do a replay right now and start over?
All right. We have
And let
1
you do
hour to
it.
get through this and what remains. Let's
And
see
who-
if we can do that.
All right.
Okay. Let's take this from the very top with our prosecutor and our officer doing their thing, and then I will go from there. And I'm not going to take notes. I'm not going to do any of that shit. I'm going to sit here and listen, and I'm going to follow my major rule about being in court and listening to people, which is what, Jason?
You may listen, but are you really hearing what they're saying?
No, it's listen to what you hear.
Listen to what you hear.
Don't
So I
just
need to
hear
take
what's
note-
going on around you. Listen to everything that is happening as well as what you're hearing. Because what is said or not said is important. All right, Helen.
Oh, since you're not familiar with everything that happened, does that make a difference at all?
When we're going on what's in that motion, no,
Yeah.
it does not.
Okay. All right.
Helen, you're up.
Let me pull up the information again so we can start over at reading the complaint.
Now,
Or I
play
could be
this
the
straight.
prosecutor.
Let's do this like they would do it. Jason, limit your answers to what you are asked.
Yeah,
Maybe I
my
should be
internet.
The
here.
prosecutor.
Yeah, let's let her be the prosecutor because my internet sucks right now. It's like going in
Let
and
who
out.
be
'Cause I'm
the
in another
prosecutor?
room.
I can be the prosecutor.
Are you sure?
Well,
Jane, you want to try it? This way
Yeah.
it gives you a chance to
yeah, I do. As
practice.
soon as I find the
Give it a
criminal
shot.
complaint.
Let's go.
All right, I'm looking for my, hang on, that's right here. Okay, officer, can you state your name and your title, what you do for a living?
Officer Mark Prophet. I'm a peace officer for the city of Fort Worth, Texas.
And how long have you been in that position?
15 years.
And how long have you actually, been in the role of, in traffic enforcement?
12 years.
Okay, and so officer, what kind of training did you have?
I was trained by my department which is a program authorized by the city of Fort Worth and the state of Texas.
Okay, so, what were you doing on the morning of April 14th, 2022?
I was engaged in the role of traffic enforcement. And that's what I was doing.
And where were you, where were you located?
I was in a parking lot off of the 4400 block,
The 44,
4100 block.
wherever it was, you know.
okay. And so, in regards to this complaint, that was read, that was in, okay, no, I'm thinking of the wrong way. What did you witness out of the defendant that morning?
I witnessed the defendant traveling northbound on the roadway, obviously exceeding the posted speed limit. And I witnessed this gauging the excess speed with my own vision, and then engaged my LiDAR system, which confirmed the fact that the defendant was traveling or driving 33 miles an hour in a 20 miles an hour zone, given the fact that the lights were flashing at that time of day in the morning,
Okay,
8:50 a.m.
so how'd you encounter the defendant?
I pulled her over and asked for her license, registration, and proof of financial responsibility, as is the process, standard process.
And did she comply?
No, she did not.
Okay, let's see. Ooh, I think what else happened, see here,
She gave me her information, which I then entered into the computer back in my cruiser, and I issued her a citation for speeding exceeding the posted speed limit.
okay, and did you encounter, or did you capture any of this on audio video?
Yes, ma'am. I had a body cam functioning with also an audio component.
Okay, so you captured the vehicle speeding? Or you just captured, or you captured the encounter with the defendant?
No, the speeding observation took place with my own eyes and the LiDAR system. And when I was interacting with the defendant on the side of the road, my body camera and audio device was capturing the conversation that took place.
Okay, and this was in the city of Fort Worth, well, we already established all that. Let me see here.
Really? When did you establish that?
I mean, we didn't start at the very beginning because we're rushing through it kind of, but well, this is actually within the territorial limits of the city of Fort Worth, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And
You need, as the prosecutor, they would ask, and the 4100 block of McCart Avenue is within the territorial limits of the city of Fort Worth.
okay, that,
Yes.
okay. Let's see, prosecutor report. And I can't think of another question.
Everything is in the complaint and you
Oh.
better get it all.
Yes,
Are you, is she the prosecutor now?
Yes.
yeah, so I'm a little bit thrown off, but let's see here. So would you say, oh, what were the conditions of the road that morning? And
Well, obviously, all these things are covered in the citation, right? And all she's going to do is make sure that
Not
everything's
all of them.
confirmed.
It
No, there's
doesn't
nothing
matter whether
about-
they're in the citation or not. The complaint is the charging instrument, not the citation. If it's
Right.
alleged in the complaint, that's what she has to prove.
what was there any kind of hazards existing, like weather?
No,
Was
ma'am.
there, what was the weather like?
It was clear weather, no conditions. of
Were
relevant-
there, huh? Oh,
there
were
no
there
relevant
any,
conditions.
okay, were there any pedestrians in the area?
As far as I can recall, there were pedestrians, there were school children in the immediate area and in the surrounding areas.
Okay, and this was, let's see here. So did you witness the defendant? No, I already asked that. I can't think of another question.
Again,
you tender
look
the
at
witness, right?
complaint.
What now, Eddie?
Look at the complaint.
I'm looking. I thought I already asked all the questions.
Oh,
I can
I
see
know, so-
several you haven't asked.
Okay, so you witnessed the defendant, and you personally observed, and you also detected with your LiDAR system that she was actually in the school zone.
yes.
And how do you,
Just
how,
FYI, folks, yes, I'm letting her ask leading questions. It doesn't matter. She's not
Okay.
asking anything that's going to make anything worse for me by doing it, though I could object to her leading him with yes or no responses.
okay. Had you, when, do you calibrate your LiDAR system on a regular basis, or how often is that calculated or
You
calibrated?
haven't laid a foundation for that.
Okay, well, I didn't think, I'm the prosecutor. I thought I could just ask what I
Still
wanted.
have to lay foundation for what you ask.
So you used a device called the LiDAR.
How
system.
did you detect the speed of the defendant?
All right, how did you detect the speed of the defendant?
A LiDAR device.
Okay, and is this you've had special training on this device?
Yes, we're all trained how to use the LiDAR device.
And how do you, how often is this LiDAR device calibrated?
It's
Does it
calibrated before
require
every shift.
calibration?
Oh, does it require calibration?
It doesn't require?
Does it? Ask
Oh, does
him.
it require calibration?
Yes,
And
And
how
how
often-
often do you calibrate it?
How often is that?
before every shift.
Okay, and so you calibrated it that morning before you came to work?
Yes, I do. I did.
Let's see. I can't see anything I didn't cover already.
You haven't asked him what the speed was. You haven't asked him what the posted speed was.
Oh, I thought he already testified to what it was. So what was the posted speed on that morning that you were there?
On that morning and every morning during that day, during the week, it was 20 miles an hour.
Okay, and that's because of what?
Because it is a school zone and for the safety of the children, the speed is regulated.
Okay, what is the speed that you clocked her at going through the school zone?
33 miles per hour.
And was this a reasonable and prudent under the circumstances then existing?
Objection requires an opinion and legal conclusion.
Okay. Had you had your coffee and donuts before you got to work that morning? I'm just teasing. I can't ask him about his site and all that kind of stuff. I'm on the wrong side. I think I might have covered it, everything in there. Okay. Can I not rest, but
Tender the witness.
stand by or tender a witness?
Tender the witness.
Okay, now what?
I stand tendered.
Okay.
Officer, can you please tell us how you know what the posted speed limit on this section of road was?
Posted speed limits are clearly affixed to the metal signs on the roadway.
So there's a sign that says what the speed limit is.
Yes, sir.
And where are the speed limits for that specific section of road established?
In the legislature.
Do you know what statute?
Not off the top of my head, no.
So you are not familiar with the statute that states what the maximum allowable speeds on a particular stretch of road are?
I believe it's Texas Transportation Code, but I'm not sure which statute.
I would ask
What do
the
you
court
know?
to take judicial notice of section 545.352 and would ask to approach the witness. Now, officer, here in the Transportation Code under section 545.352, we shall read the following. A speed in excess of the limits established by subsection B or under another provision of this subchapter is prima facie evidence that the speed is not reasonable and prudent and that the speed is unlawful. Do you see that phrase prima facie?
Yes,
Do you know what prima facie means, legally speaking?
I believe my understanding is that it means that it is fact on its face.
Unless rebutted by other evidence, correct?
Yes,
Okay. So this chapter actually, or this section actually reads, unless opposing evidence proving otherwise is submitted, the speed is not reasonable and prudent and that the speed is unlawful. Would that be an accurate interpretation of the statute as written?
sure, it sounds like that would be accurate.
Okay. So prima facie in this case, meaning that the speed is not reasonable and prudent based upon what facts? What is your evidence the speed was not reasonable and prudent?
My evidence is that it is a protected zone because excess speed poses a direct danger to the lives of our precious young people.
But the statute says the posted speed limit is prima facie, not absolute. Does it not? Didn't we just see that?
Sure, doesn't it depend on how many children are in the area as well?
Do you see anywhere in here that says a number of children are the requirement for which the criteria must be met?
No, but isn't it reasonable to conclude that if there are children present?
I
that-
don't think it's reasonable for a police officer to be amending the statute without the consent of the legislature to add things that aren't specifically listed there. Do you?
Well, what is your definition of reasonable?
I didn't provide a definition, nor did I ask you for a definition of reasonable. I simply asked you that since this says prima facie, the evidence here is that the speed is not reasonable and prudent and is unlawful based upon what facts and evidence you possess.
Well, I possess facts and evidence that there were plenty of children around, that an excess.
Again, the
speed posed
statute
a
makes
danger
no
to those
mention
children.
of children, number of people, pedestrians, number of vehicles, or traffic flow, does it?
Well, who is responsible for determining what's reasonable and not reasonable? If not the law enforcement?
Officer, please let me ask the questions. We'll get to that point if I find it necessary. What is your actual evidence that the prima facie speed limit at which you allege I was traveling was not reasonable and prudent? What is your actual evidence that proves otherwise?
My professional opinion as a.
So your
law
opinion
enforcement
is now
officer-
evidence in court. I object to that. The officer was not sworn in as an expert witness. His opinion is absolutely irrelevant, professional or otherwise.
Wouldn't they swear him in as a,
No, he can't be sworn in as an expert witness.
No, he's not expert.
Hmm.
He's not qualified to determine the statute.
So again, what is your actual evidence other than your own opinion?
I guess you would stump him at that point, right?
Let's
What
look
would-
at subsection B. Unless a special hazard exists that requires a slower speed for compliance with section 545.351B, the following speeds are lawful.
Well, the special hazard is colliding with children.
Okay, can you please show me where in subsection B here that is attributed to the language of the statute?
It's not in there.
It's not in there. Well, let's see. There's nothing in here that deals with the number of people around, the number of vehicles, traffic conditions, or anything else. This statute deals strictly with prima facie speed limits on particular types of roads, does it not?
Yes,
And in fact, it says that the special hazards that exist require compliance with section 545.351B. That's a separate statute, isn't it?
yep,
Okay. That, Jane, is how you connect 352 to 351. You get him to read subsection B.
Okay.
so I think the best way, Jane, for you to learn this, I'm doing it, is recording it on an audio to listen to over and
I
over and
do.
over.
I do.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. All right, officer. Well, since there's nothing in 352 dealing with hitting somebody or the number of pedestrians or anything of that sort, let's see if the 351 over here that this statute mentions has it. Can you please turn to section 545.351, which is the one immediately preceding 352 that you're reading now?
I'm looking at it.
Maximum speed requirements. An operator may not drive at a speed greater than is reasonable and prudent under the circumstances then existing. That's subsection A, isn't it?
Yes,
However, 352 said you had to comply with subsection B, didn't it?
yes,
An operator, one, may not drive a vehicle to speed greater than is reasonable and prudent under the conditions and having regard for actual and potential hazards then existing, and shall control the speed of the vehicle as necessary to avoid colliding with another person or vehicle that is on or entering the highway in compliance with law, and the duty of each person to use due care.
that's exactly my point.
Now,
Does
officer,
it not mention persons here? Are children not persons?
officer, I believe it's my turn to ask the questions and for you to answer them. Please wait until I ask a question. Now, is it your allegation that I was not exercising due care?
Yes, it is.
It is. Then can you please explain how you are separating? Well, actually, before we get there, let's try this. Then can you please identify the person in this courtroom that you are alleging I had a collision with?
There's no one that you did have a collision with, but you
I
could have.
did I hit a pedestrian?
No, but the
Did
entire.
I hit another
reason-
car?
No,
Did I become airbound and clear the freeway and land in someone's yard and drive through the side of their house?
obviously not.
Did I skid to a stop having to cut donuts to keep from hitting someone in a parking lot or over in the schoolyard?
I certainly believe you could have if your speed was.
I didn't ask you what your beliefs were, officer. I asked you to specifically answer the question, did that happen?
No, it did not.
It did not. So in other words, my tires never left the road. I never swerved. I never hit a person. I never hit a car. I had no accident of any kind. Isn't that correct?
Correct.
Then how are you alluding to remove the duty of each person to use due care from the requirement in the very same sentence of this statute that says that due care is there to avoid colliding with another person or vehicle? How are you separating the two to use one without the other?
That's a very good point.
Well, if we go back to one, may not drive a vehicle to speed greater than is reasonable and prudent under the conditions and having regard for actual potential hazards then existing. If I did not hit anyone or any vehicle or lose control of my car or cause anyone else to have an accident because of the way I was coming down the road, which in my opinion was very safe considering none of these things occurred, then how was I not having regard for actual and potential hazards then existing?
You just got lucky. You didn't hurt anybody.
Again,
People
officer,
like
that's
you
an opinion,
are a
not a
threat
fact.
to society.
Please stop offering your opinion unless the court deems you an expert witness. Answer the questions I ask, please. Can we do that?
Yes.
Subsection C. An operator shall, consistent with subsections A and B, drive at an appropriate reduced speed if the operator is approaching and crossing an intersection or railroad grade crossing. Was there an intersection or railroad grade crossing between you and I?
No,
The operator is approaching and going around a curve. Was there a curve between you and I?
yes, there was.
Then how did your LiDAR work since it requires line of sight?
I got you when you came across the curb into my line of sight.
Then there was no curve between us at the time that you established my speed, was there?
When you came into my sight around the curb, I noticed that you were driving too fast. So
What
I
was that
confirmed
distance, officer? How far down the road does this curve begin from your position?
100 yards away.
The curve is 100 yards away. And what degree of curvature would you say there is?
I'd say that's about a 30-degree curve.
A 30-degree curve. Is there a parking lot on either side of the road?
Once you came across that.
Is
once
there a
you exited the
parking lot
curve,
on either side of the road between you and I in this alleged curve?
No,
No. So it's an absolutely unobstructed view from where you were sitting to where I was allegedly on the other side of a curve.
that's right.
Okay. So some point in this curve, I must have hit a pedestrian or another car, right?
No,
Then once again,
you were
how
approaching.
was my
and you-
speed not appropriate?
Because you were going around a curve and you couldn't possibly see what was around at the
Okay.
outside end of that curve.
We can-
So
we
if
can-
I couldn't see around the curve, how could you and your LiDAR see around
Because
the
I
curve?
saw you as you're coming around the curve. waiting
Officer,
for
it
you.
can't work both ways. We
There's
don't
actually
have
no
one-way
curve.
viewable brick walls in this state.
There's no curve.
There's no curve. All right.
It's
If I
straight.
can't see around the curve, it would be impossible for you to see around the curve. That's just logic.
So there's no curve, so y'all can
I
scratch it.
understand that, but I'm trying to show you how to take
Yeah.
what's testified to and use it. Pay fucking attention.
Okay.
Fucking attention.
And also.
Number three, the operator is approaching a hill crest. How many hills were between where you were and where I was at the time you allegedly clocked my speed?
There were none. We were on a straight, flat road.
Okay, so now it's straight. Good. We got rid of the curve. Thank you, officer. I appreciate your honesty.
Once you
at this
came
point.
around the curve, it was straight.
The operator is traveling on a narrow or winding roadway. Was it narrow and winding?
No,
And a special hazard exists with regard to traffic, including pedestrians or weather or highway conditions.
bingo.
Well, your bingo has a caveat, doesn't it? Subsection C, which is the section that controls 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, specifically says it must be read in conjunction with the facts asserted in A and B. So once again, when did I have a collision with a pedestrian, a person, or vehicle, or property of any kind?
A special hazard existed with
Officer,
regard.
it must be read in
pedestrian.
conjunction with the conditions of subsection B. Who did I hit? What did I hit?
You did not hit anybody.
Therefore, I must have been exercising due care and paying close attention to correct my speed so as to avoid having done so.
Correct.
Wouldn't you agree?
I do agree with that.
Now, officer, we saw in 352 the defined speed limits for specific types of roadways, did we not?
Yes,
And we also saw, based upon the criminal complaint and what's in 352, that there must be some way for the public to be given notice of those speed limits. And you stated accurately, I might add, that those speed limits are posted on signs all over the state, correct?
correct.
Can you please tell me what statute governs those signs?
Texas Transportation Code 545352.
352 sets the specific speeds posted on those signs. Is that the statute that regulates the contents and purpose of those signs?
I don't know what the actual statute is.
You don't know. I asked the court to take judicial notice of Texas Transportation Code 201.904, which was up here a minute ago. Doesn't appear to be now, though.
Hush, leave me alone.
All right, where the hell did it go? Did I miss something here?
Do you have it in front of you, officer?
Transportation code. I did have.
What about the officer?
Wrong place. All right, officer. Section 201.904. I asked the court to take judicial notice. And officer, would you please read this statute? And I'll read it, Jason. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Speed signs. The department, meaning the Department of Transportation. Isn't that correct, officer?
Yes.
Shall erect and maintain on the highways and roads of this state appropriate signs that show the maximum lawful speed for. Now, the maximum lawful speed is exactly what we saw in 352, is it not?
Yes.
And that's exactly what 352 designated was the maximum lawful speed for a particular type of roadway in the state of Texas. Isn't that right?
Yes.
So let's see what this says. The maximum lawful speed for commercial motor vehicles, truck tractors, truck trailers, truck semi-trailers, and motor vehicles engaged in the business of transporting passengers for compensation or hire, meaning buses.
That's correct.
That's the entire statute, is it not?
Yes.
Can you please identify any other statute within the transportation code that regulates speed signs?
No.
So to your knowledge, this is the only section.
Yes.
Good, because it's the only one to my knowledge as well. Okay.
Yep.
Well, let me ask you, what make and model of car did you say I was in on the citation? Just make one up. We don't get
Yeah.
it.
Blah, bitty, blah, bitty, blah.
Okay. So please tell me, let's just say my 95 Chevrolet Impala.
Sure.
Okay. Can you please tell me how a 95 Chevrolet Impala meets the legal criteria of a commercial motor vehicle?
Because that 95 Chevrolet Impala is registered with the state of Texas as a passenger car.
You realize that commercial motor vehicle is a specific weight class in the state of Texas, do you not? And that commercial motor vehicles are specifically defined in Texas law as a vehicle that can carry more than 26,001 pounds, more than 16 passengers, including the driver, or bears a hazardous material placard and is capable of bearing hazardous materials. Is that what you saw on my Impala? Does it weigh more than 26,001 pounds?
The driver did. No, I'm just joking, of course.
So my car does not weigh 26,001 pounds or more, does it?
I would say not.
And a 95 Chevrolet Impala will not hold 16 passengers, including the driver, will it?
No, will not.
And you didn't see any hazardous materials placard or hazardous materials in it, did you?
No.
So it's not a commercial motor vehicle under Texas law, is it?
Apparently not.
Can you please tell us how it became a truck tractor? Isn't a truck tractor something like a Kenworth or a Mack?
Sure.
So you're saying that a 95 Impala is actually a Kenworth or a Mack truck?
No, it's obviously not.
So then it must have been a truck trailer. You know, like the big box haul behind that Mack or that semi, right? Or big flatbed. Is that what you're saying I was on?
No, apparently, obviously you were not in one of those.
Okay, so it must have been a truck semi trailer, the big box type. Is that accurate?
No.
Then it must, since it's the only one left, have been a motor vehicle engaged in the business of transporting passengers for compensation or hire and configured as a bus. Is that what it was?
No, was not a bus.
Then I'm confused.
I am too.
How did you come to the legal conclusion that a 95 Impala was the type of device regulated by the posted speed signs when the speed sign statute clearly says it's not?
This is very interesting and enlightening.
Well, I'm glad you're impressed by the information. Now, will you please answer the question? How did my car become one of these devices?
It was not.
It was not. Now, can you please tell me where in 201.904 you see the word misdemeanor or the word offense?
No,
No, you can't tell me.
I don't
No,
see it.
you don't see it.
I don't see it. I
Either
don't
one
like
of
your
them.
attitude, mister.
You don't see misdemeanor or offense in this statute, right?
Right.
You don't see any language that says a person commits an offense if, or a person is guilty of the offense of, or something approximately similar anywhere in this statute, do you?
No, I do not.
In fact, we did not see similar language. Well, there, now it shows up again. We did not see any such language in 545.351 either, did we?
No,
There is no term for misdemeanor. There is no term for offense. There is no language about a person committing an offense or being guilty of an offense, is there?
no. So apparently this entire court is fraud.
So if we go to 352, we don't see any of that language in 352 either, do we?
No,
So where exactly is a speeding offense defined in Texas law if it's not within these three statutes? Since these are
Sure.
the three that deal specifically with speed limits.
I sure don't know.
You don't know. Well, also, you do realize that the Texas Penal Code specifically says specific things about offenses in Texas law. Or do you not know that?
It certainly should.
Well, great. I'm glad you agree. Let's see if it actually does. I asked the court to take judicial notice of section 1.03 of the Texas Penal Code. And I asked the officer to be allowed to read it into the record. Approach the witness. Jane, you're going to have to ask for a copy of the penal code as well.
Okay.
Okay. Section 1.03, effective code. A, conduct does not constitute an offense unless it is defined as an offense by statute, municipal ordinance, order of a county commissioner's court, or rule authorized by and lawfully adopted under a statute. The provisions of Titles 1, 2, and 3 apply to offenses defined by other laws, unless the statute defining the offense provides otherwise. However, the punishment affixed to an offense defined outside this code shall be applicable unless the punishment is classified in accordance with this code. Now, let's look real close at subsection A, officer. We saw that neither 201.904, 545.351, or 545.352 specifically defined an offense of any kind relating to speeding. It did not contain the word offense. It did not contain the word misdemeanor. It did not contain the language, a person commits an offense if, or a person is guilty of whatever, anywhere, did they?
Oh, get.
Yes or no, officer?
I said no.
Okay. So if they didn't define an offense, and this statute says that there can be no offense if it is not defined by statute, municipal ordinance, order of a county commissioner's court, or rule authorized and lawfully adopted under a statute.
But it does say
Then-
municipal ordinance. So, I mean, I can't believe Jason didn't catch that right there.
The problem here is.
I know the
that
problem, and I'm
speed
just saying,
limits
yeah.
are state law established.
So then,
No
okay,
local entity can legislate in place of state law.
correct.
They
I mean, correct.
cannot write an ordinance that changes state law.
Right. Okay.
So and therefore they cannot write an ordinance that creates an offense that is governed by state law, and the state law doesn't create one itself.
Okay.
Okay. So, officer, considering that the only 3 statutes in the transportation code that deal with speed limits and speeding do not define an offense, and the penal code says that if it's not defined, it can't be an offense. Can you please tell me where you got the lawful authority to enforce the transportation code for the purpose of speeding?
I got it from the people who trained me, and obviously they're not training me correctly.
So you got authority to do something that the law itself does not authorize them or you to do. And you're saying this is policy and training?
Seems to be.
And who exactly provided you with this training?
Lieutenant Colonel West,
And who is that?
whoever.
Is he
My
someone
trainer.
in your department?
Yeah, the trainer. We're all trained how to enforce the traffic code.
Well, I don't understand. If you're trained to enforce the traffic code, why isn't your police department defined as part of the definition of department within the transportation code enforcement provisions?
Because
Transportation code
it's a-
enforcement provisions.
it's a gigantic organized crime, fraud.
Now, see, Jane, even though it's in the motion and we can get there, we've already destroyed their case. We don't really have to go a lot further than this.
Okay. Well, I don't want
We
to go
could.
further than I have
That
to go.
motion goes into a lot more than this.
Mhm.
But
So
using
then-
just the 4 statutes and the merits, we've destroyed their case.
Okay.
So what, during all of that exchange, would they have tried to do to intervene?
The problem for them when I did it was that they had no way to intervene because I laid the groundwork and led the cop down the primrose path to give me the testimony I needed to link the chain.
Did you lay proper foundation for all those
I
questions?
did for
you asked?
every one of them. Does
Okay.
anyone disagree with that? This is a participatory class, guys. Anybody's
I
free to
mean, I
talk and
can't-
ask the questions.
I don't think you, I mean, I think you did lay the proper foundation. I just don't know how come it's so easy for you. And it's so
Because
hard.
I've had shit tons of practice at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is incredible. I mean, for how many years now I've seen Eddie do this. It really is. He's one of a kind to be able to just articulate everything the way that he does.
I mean, it makes sense the way it is, but the problem is trying to present it.
Well,
Yeah.
I just presented it and I did it without a single note of any kind.
I know, but that's you. You're not gonna be in court with me.
That's true.
And you
But
can't
this is
act
where
as their
you
lawful
should be
coun-
if you will apply yourself to writing out an outline like I just did. You need to take this video. You need to go to this portion where I did this, and you need to lay an outline down on paper, asking everything exactly the way I asked it.
I'll
Understand
do
that?
that. I'll do that.
You need to do that.
I will do that. I mean, I've been doing it all this time on all the different
And
ones,
you
but
need
they're
to
not the same.
stick to it. Do
Yeah.
not stray.
All right. They will still find me guilty, you think, or not?
Oh, absolutely. They're going to ignore what the law says. And that's why you're going to appeal.
So then with that in mind, since the motion is in the record, even if I don't cover some of the other things that's in the motion, is that not gonna be,
This is a court of record. Therefore, whatever's in that motion that you want to address on appeal, you damn well better ask questions about.
while I'm in the trial?
Yes, because the appellate court's going to look at the transcript, not the paperwork.
I know, but so then, so if they, oh, shit.
They're gonna ignore it all and convict you anyway. It's such a crock. Such a
So,
crap.
so even at the appeals, with what we challenged as far as just on the merits, the appeals court will probably most likely throw it out, correct?
No, not if you do it the way I did it, because we can make the argument that the trial court abused its discretion because it did not apply the law to the facts. This is a court of record. You are not getting a de novo. You are getting an actual appeal.
On the points of errors or on the, yeah.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, with the way that you just did it and with them not ruling correctly, whenever the Court of Appeals sees it, they are gonna probably throw it out.
Yeah,
I-
you should win the appeal hands down.
Yeah, okay.
And then what? Can you sue the living? Can
Then
you
she
do
comes
anything
back and
about it?
sues everybody, including the judge who abused discretion and therefore lost jurisdiction and immunity.
And that's what I want to do.
Because once we show that jurisdiction never existed in the first place, which is what we just did, the judge cannot be acting in a judicial capacity.
Well, I mean, obviously he knows that at this point. Why would
But he doesn't expect you to know it and how to fight back against it.
But what if you said exactly that at the end?
No,
put him on
you do
notice.
not say that at the end. You never say anything to the judge about anything until this is over.
Oh,
You never do that so that they can throw the book at you for threatening a fucking judge or trying to change their opinion through threats or coercion or anything else.
And they don't want you, they don't want to throw it out in that level of a court because that would establish precedence, right?
No, because the municipal courts cannot set precedent.
Okay, but so then if they did dismiss it, then there would not be a record of the fact that they dismissed it.
Sure, there would.
So then they wouldn't want there to be a record of that though, correct?
Since the Supreme Court ruled that you can sue for malicious prosecution, even if the case is simply dismissed against you,
Okay,
they're going to go balls to the wall to get you
okay,
so that they can avoid being sued for malicious prosecution, even if they're wrong. And that's okay that they do that because it sets them up on a higher ledge to get pushed off of later.
okay, so I can, and they don't have to do findings of facts and conclusions of law, correct?
You
Even
can
though I,
definitely file a motion requesting it after the trial is done.
okay. At the same time, do a notice of appeal, at the same time, file my inability to pay, at the same time.
At
file
the same time, file a motion for new trial, which
New
is
trial with points of
mandatory in
errors.
Texas.
With points of errors, okay.
what'd you just say, Eddie?
Motion for new trial is mandatory in Texas.
With
Okay.
points of errors.
All right. Does
And I'm already
anyone have
done.
any questions or comments over what we just did?
Yeah, I have a question. Adam Howell here.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Adam.
Hey, hi. I was just wondering how you introduced the witness again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear exactly how you
I
did
didn't
that.
have to introduce as the defendant. The prosecutor would have done that for me.
Okay, and did you only cross-examine in this instance?
Yes.
And is that how you would do it in every trial, is just to only
It
cross?
all depends upon what the trial is. In this specific one, this is how you attack this specific type of case, which is a speeding allegation.
Okay, good to know.
Now, a lot of what I did would play into other cases, but it wouldn't be exactly the same because every case will be different.
And
But-
before you would go into any trial, would you always subpoena all the potential witnesses, even if the prosecution claimed that they were, summoning all those other witnesses, the
Well,
same
here's
witness?
the thing. The prosecutor is going to summon witnesses that they are going to use against you. They don't have to summon every witness if they don't want to, but they have to summon the one that's going to provide the testimony they're going to use against you. Okay? If what you can do is ask them for their list of witnesses. And whoever's not on that list that you think should be, those are the ones you subpoena.
Okay,
Now,
Well, just-
remember, when you subpoena a witness, they are your witness. As your witness, you're not allowed to ask leading questions. Before you can ask a leading question of your own witness, you have to get the court to declare the witness hostile. So if you subpoena one of their cops, you have to move the court to declare him a hostile witness, put him on the stand, then you can ask him leading questions.
Okay. Well, so the prosecution provides a list that they endorse their witnesses. They let you know who those witnesses are. And then are they definitely going to be, questioned on the stand just because they were listed?
Not necessarily, but if they're on the witness list, you can call them even if the state doesn't.
Good to know. Good to know. Thank you.
Mhm.
For traffic by citation, it's not gonna be, they're not gonna have any more than just the witness for the cop, right? The cop,
Almost certainly.
yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions?
No, I don't know if I'm ready or not. No, I don't know. But
Can't you ask for a continuance, Jane?
I don't know if I can at this point because it's on Tuesday, so it's not, I think you have to do that within 7 days, I thought.
Unless it's an emergency, you do.
Yeah. So, and then I have another court on Tuesday, I mean,
All right,
Wednesday.
real quick, everybody in the chat. Where the hell did the chat window go? This is the link to my YouTube channel. That is where this video will be posted after we get it done. So y'all can feel free to go watch it over and over again, download it, whatever you want to do with it. Okay, and study it. But this in Texas is how you fight a speeding ticket. Doesn't matter what kind of speeding ticket it is. Now, also in the chat, this is a link to the folder where we keep the stuff that we use to go over in class.
Something went wrong with that link, that
Yeah.
one, it doesn't
Didn't
work.
post it yet, probably, that's why.
Which one? The YouTube channel?
Yeah, the first one.
All right, it may do that because it's taking the link from me being logged into it rather than as a viewer. So hang on just a second. Let me pull it up here on its own. YouTube. All right. Try that link.
The last YouTube. Okay, let me see.
Am I on Rumble? No, I haven't posted anything. I don't have an account. I do have an account on Rumble, but I haven't posted anything to it.
Okay. All right, that link was good. And then the other, let me see here.
Make sure the Google
Mal-
Drive link works too, so that y'all can get at the documents that we use for this. The motion
Eddie-
that I'm telling her to work from and to use there, I've already written the motion you need. All you have to ever do is edit a copy of it. The highlighted portions that need to be edited are already selected in it for you. Just change everything that needs to be edited. Then you file it in your case and you internalize every piece of information that's in it. You learn it by heart till you can recite it in your sleep without even thinking about it. You take that and go to court with it. When it comes to a speeding charge, you will be the most dangerous fucking person in the room, guaranteed.
Okay. Are all these documents available still whenever, like say next month, if I hadn't signed up yet or something?
Unless I put something really large in the class info folder, everything that's in there stays in there.
Okay.
The only thing that gets taken down are the videos because of their size.
Yeah. So
In fact, this video from this class, though I'm going to have a local copy, the only place you're going to get it is off the YouTube channel or off of wherever else it's posted, because I'm not going to put it up here in the class info folder.
Okay, please put it on the YouTube. But
Do
that's-
you have all of last year's on YouTube as well?
No, none of the actual classes are on YouTube.
Where are a copy of those?
If you want copies of those, you have to let me know for the month you were subscribed to, and I'll re-upload them to the Google Drive and send you the link.
Okay, I'll send you an email.
Okay.
And my suggestion to you is become Dave Champion and get you a kitty cat. Because as you just heard, her kitty cat agreed with everything you said and objected to
I've
her.
got 2 border collies. Law loves cats. He'd like to have his own kitten, but
You
No.
get him one, and I guarantee you, you put it right there with you, and that cat will tell that it'll retell everything you just told everybody
Yeah,
else. So
right.
that way you don't have to repeat yourself.
Yeah, that cat.
And may I suggest you get a Bengal?
yeah, well, I've got Justice. Justice talks to me all day, all night. She'll talk to me all the time. She loves to repeat herself.
All right, this was
All right.
fun.
Yeah,
Now,
it was. Thank
Does
y'all.
anybody else have any questions or comments? Now's the time to ask them before we get off here.
Y'all should ask.
When do you
Yeah.
just, when do
Go
you
ahead.
go and use the I'm not a person argument? Is that, I mean, there's
When-
tons of
when
different
you're
ways to.
going against personal jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is a merits challenge, not a
Merit.
jurisdiction, a personal jurisdiction challenge. So we went straight to merits and ignored everything else.
okay. Yeah, there's other
Do-
methods, right?
Adam, you were going to ask a question?
Yeah, there was some terminology that you used when you called the law enforcement officer to testify. I don't remember exactly what that terminology was, but
When I called him to testify.
Yeah.
I didn't call him. He was already up there because the prosecution called him. I just cross-examined him.
uh-huh.
So I'm not sure which one of my questions or terminology you're referring to.
There was some way you introduced yourself or began the questioning process.
Well, I began the questioning process by asking specific questions about his prior testimony. Things he
Uh-huh.
had already said to the prosecutor, just to lay my foundation for my questions.
Okay.
And, okay, are you telling me also too, not to even bring up the fact that there's errors in the citation?
Did you see me do it?
No, I didn't.
Nope.
Then what does that tell you?
Well, I mean, because it goes to the credibility.
What does that tell you?
That you're not to do it.
Why?
Why? Because I'm getting off track.
Was it necessary to achieve the goal we had in mind?
You had to set
Oh.
the foundation.
No, I guess it wasn't, because
Gotta go, bye.
All right, see you, Jason. Thanks.
especially if the goal, I mean, especially if the outcome is gonna be the same regardless. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Which is exactly what you're shooting for, to get this outcome regardless.
the outcome of being dismissed would be nice, but you want me to get the outcome for the
No,
appeal.
you always go for the appeal, even if you win. You're still
Yeah.
doing everything to prepare for an appeal, just in
Right.
case you don't. You
Right.
could very well win this and they dismiss the case.
Mhm.
I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying they will do their best not to if they can find a way around it.
Right.
Do judges ever refuse to take judicial notice of?
No,
Something
they
that-
can't. The rules of evidence require them to.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only time they can refuse to take judicial notice is if the thing you're asking them to take judicial notice of is one of the exceptions to judicial notice found in the rules of evidence. And that is anything that is ongoing legislatively and thus debatable because it's not yet established, et cetera, things of that nature. The only thing that can be brought up for judicial notice are irrefutable facts.
Before you go, because you said that I could write a motion, and I did write the motion that is challenging the facial insufficient complaint, and we didn't even do anything with that, but
Because
Okay.
you can't challenge it as part of your trial. You can only challenge it in writing for what it has. It's got nothing to do with the trial.
okay, well, I sent it to you. I don't know if it's sufficient or not, but I did challenge it in writing, but I don't know if I listed everything I was supposed to. God, I have so much freaking paper. It's
All
hard
right.
to-
Any other
Oh,
questions,
motion
queries,
quashed.
quandaries, complaints, bitches, moans, groans, piss poor explanations, or anything else we got to do before we get out of here?
Let's see, it's insufficient. So, okay, so I'm gonna file this on Monday, and then I'm gonna file a motion to quash as legally deficient. And then, I only put the codes in there that you said to put in there, and, it's short. But, I'm also gotta file a written, I'm just gonna call it a written request to have the Black's Law, freaking code of criminal procedure, whatever codes in there,
Yes.
right? A copy of
Penal
it.
code, so you can show 1.03, the transportation code for the other 3 statutes, and a copy of Black's Law containing the Ps.
Okay. The Ps? Oh,
Yeah, for prima facie.
okay. All right.
How do you introduce anything from Black's Law into a trial?
Well, the first thing is we use 545.352 of the statute where it specifically uses the term prima facie. And then we ask the officer, does he know what prima facie means in a legal sense? And if he goes yes, and tries to give you an explanation, and it's not accurate, you ask to approach the witness and say, this is a copy of Black's Law, whatever edition, page blah, blah, blah. Can you please read what Black's Law says the definition of prima facie is? Okay. If he doesn't know, then you can do the exact same thing. Ask to approach the witness to say, this is a copy of Black's Law Dictionary, page such and such, this edition that shows the definition of prima facie. Can you please read that?
And would you bring that whole Black's Law dictionary into the courtroom?
You ask them to supply a copy. If you've got one, great. But yes, you bring the whole thing. You don't copy it. You don't take prints of it. You bring the whole damn book.
Oh,
You can get copies of these different editions on Amazon for pennies on the dollar. I ended up getting
Do
2 of
not
Black's
get a
Law.
version newer than version 6.
I've got 6th edition. That's the
Okay.
highest I've got.
You want
Oh.
6 or earlier, but not later. Later,
Oh,
they
okay.
stop putting in the case law with the definition.
okay.
6 and prior contains the case law, which is what you want to be able to reference. Not Black's Law itself, but the case law, if the definition was set by case law.
Good to know. Never heard that one before.
I hope that you laid the foundation for getting those statutes, the 4 statutes in there, and then you can post that pretty quick so I can get that outlined.
I'm pretty sure I laid foundation for everything.
Well, I know, but I mean, it was kind of like in a hurry, and
Well,
I
that
don't
was the
know,
whole point.
the person, the prosecutor person is not a real prosecutor who would have been objecting to the way that you did it. So I don't know if we didn't catch things that,
Thing about it is if you do it the way that I did it, they could not have gotten an objection. They could have gotten sustained
okay,
because we laid foundation for everything and we proved it was relevant before we even approached it.
okay. And you're gonna be uploading that tonight?
Yeah, as soon as we get off here and it gets encoded, which will take about an hour to an hour and a half, and then it'll be uploaded after that. It only takes me minutes to get it up there because I got 500 up and down.
Okay. That's pretty fast. What do you got, Verizon?
Frontier fiber. So I
Yeah.
got 500 gig up and 500 gig down.
That's cool. Okay, well, I appreciate it.
All right. All right, guys. Thanks for coming. Tell your
Thank you,
friends, refer them to the YouTube channel, please. And let's get traffic going on this because everybody needs to see this and everybody needs to know how to use it. You guys have a great night.
All right, you too. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah, thank you. That was very helpful. I appreciate it.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Anytime.